Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, two-time defending ATV motocross national champion, Cody Jansen.
Am I on air? What's up, everybody? We're back. I'm your host, Cody Jansen, and welcome to episode 53 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, our High Point review episode presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, available for purchase at shop.csttires.com. We have another jam-packed episode for you tonight, full of content that you won't find anywhere else. Logan Tremellen of Tremellen Media House will join us to help break down all the action from High Point. And this week's episode will also feature an array of guests that will stop by for some great conversations. Fresh off his third career Pro Class podium finish, Brandon Hoag will join us to talk about his best overall performance as a professional and help me deliver maybe the most important message we could ever talk about here on the show. Really looking forward to this, one of my favorite conversations we've ever featured on the podcast. As the show rolls on, national championship winning mechanic and Mechanic of the Year award winner Michael Byrd will join us. Michael works for Baldwin Motorsports during the week and wrenches for seven-time AMA ATV Pro Class national champion Chad Wienen on the weekend. So needless to say, you can find him at the absolute epicenter of ATV racing. Listen as he tells us how he found himself wrenching for two legends, takes us underneath the Wienen Motorsports tent and inside the walls at Baldwin Motorsports, gives us the best insight yet when it comes to the pro stock debacle, and so much more. And finally, Aaron Salinas drops by for the first time ever here at Digging Deep. After celebrating his first ever Pro-Am moto win to finding himself at the center of one of the gnarliest wrecks in recent memory, this star in the making experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows at High Point. You're going to come away from this conversation as a big fan of Aaron's, so stay tuned for that later in the episode. We've got a busy episode ahead, so let's not waste any more time, shall we? Thanks to all of you who are playing Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy with us. A reminder that teams do not roll over from the previous event, so you must visit atvfantasy.com over the course of the next few days to select your four-rider team and lock it in before the gate drops in Georgia. Remember, picks lock in at 12:30 Eastern Time on Saturday. Head over to atvfantasy.com today to select your team and for additional info. Next up, thanks to our sponsors who are all on board with us tonight. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Nemura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Fourworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bike Strikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Their clippers rock, their nose hair trimmer is amazing, and they have some brand new industry-leading products that just hit the market as well. So check out Manscaped. I wish I would have sooner. Get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support all these great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. The season is here, racing is heating up, and we both know you need parts and gear. No matter what off-road gear or parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. So before you buy, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out in a major way. We can't thank you enough for that. Now, the 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep. Let's go. All right, guys, here to help break down all the action from High Point from Tremellen Media House. Say hello to Mr. Logan Tremellen. Welcome back, buddy. Happy to have you.
Thanks so much for having me on, Cody. It's a pleasure.
You've been here and you're back again. You chose to return, so I'm glad to know that you enjoyed it enough to rejoin the show. And this should be a lot of fun because there was a lot of craziness at High Point, plenty of stuff to talk about, and some topics to tie up from the previous round as well. And I have to believe that being from Pennsylvania, like you are, you had to be stoked to have High Point back on the schedule for the first time since 2018. I know you were still more in racer mode back when the series was last there. But good to be back at undeniably historic facility out there, and a staple of the series for so many years, a staple for American motocross as a whole. So had to be cool to be back at High Point, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I was so excited to go back there. High Point for me personally, I had a life-changing wreck there, and I was so happy to go back and make it a positive place to be at.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. I remember some of that like it was yesterday. And it was great to be back at the races in general, really. Track was great. What weather was spectacular. It was picture perfect. And speaking of picture perfect, Joel Hetrick was at the top of the board every time he hit the racetrack, first in both qualifiers, won in the motos, led every lap. It was the Joel Hetrick show at High Point.
He he was the top of the show in every race but the second pro stock class. But in the pro class, Joel was just dominant. Like nobody had anything for him. He looked smooth, he looked consistent, and he just brought it home.
And man, he's been so good on that Yamaha, and he's been so good at High Point over the years. He was so dominant on Saturday, yet none of it came as a surprise. It's almost like what we expected,
I think once everybody saw him at Daytona, they kind of knew what to expect from Joel this entire year. And I was lucky enough to see it before Daytona because I shot with him in Florida beforehand. Yep. But it's going to be hard to stop him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Joel wins by double digit seconds in both pro motos there on Saturday, chopped that points lead down to just 7 points for Chad Wienen. And Chad had a solid 2-2 day, just didn't get the starts that he needed to give Joel a run for his money. It felt like. Yeah.
I think start wise, Joel's always been there, but now the extra power on the Yamaha and the fact that he's so much smaller than Chad, I'm sure that's just a huge benefit to Joel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when Joel gets a hole shot and Chad doesn't, that's not going to bode well. Like that's just, or probably even vice versa, right? Like you can't give the other guy a head start and think that you're going to catch him.
Yeah, I think both motos at Texas, Chad came out like after the first lap, I think he was in fourth, and second moto at High Point, same thing. He was sitting in fourth, fifth, right around there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So hard fought 3-3 podium finish on the day for Brandon Hoag. We anticipated that he was going to be good at High Point, remembering back to how good he was in 2018, and man, he lived up to the hype. This was and we're going to have him on the show here in a moment, but this was his best performance of his professional career in my mind. He was clearly the third best guy on the day. And in that first moto, he had to go through like that whole, second tier of riders or whatever, if you want to use that terminology. He had to go through all those other gnarly guys, and he did so. That was a really, really, really good ride for Brandon. Super impressive.
Yeah, Brandon rode great. Some of the footage I have, there's like 5 of them, literally bumper to bumper, and Brandon wasn't in the front, so he definitely had a battle with those guys the entire race. And then the second race, I have footage of him and Bryce literally hitting each other multiple times. Like it was crazy the battle that was going on, and Brandon definitely showed that he was the third place guy this weekend.
Yeah, he was gnarly. What do you say? Let's get Brandon in here to talk about his third career pro class podium finish. All right, guys. So last week we had this guy on to talk about a career day at High Point 2018. And now 3 years later, he had yet another career day in Southwestern Pennsylvania. Brought to you by CST Tires. Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover. CST's Pulse MXR tires and soft and standard compounds are available at shop.csttires.com. Help me welcome back, fresh off the podium, Mr. Brandon Hoag. What's up, mate? Congrats on killer day once again at High Point.
What's up, mate? Yeah, thanks for the intro, and thanks for having me back, dude.
Yeah, I feel like it was only right. Obviously, you were one of the stories I kind of wanted to feature in the previous episode. Kind of some really good memories at High Point. So fresh in everybody's mind after that was how fire you were in 2018, and so to redo it at a place where you've seen some success before, and to think about how far you've come since High Point 2018 to High Point 2021, it had to be pretty cool. But to return there and then I don't know, have those good vibes, kind of pay off. That had to be pretty special for you.
Yeah, it was special. And like going back to that place, I was confident going in, and everything just worked out that way. Like I guess, like how we talked in our previous episode, High Point's been good to me. So I knew going in that it was going to be good. And then when I saw the track was the same, like as the years passed. So
Yep.
I knew it would be hopefully a good weekend, and the weather was good, and I knew it was ready for me to come out.
It's crazy too how mentally that works. It's like, I don't know, it just feels like momentum. It could have been 3 years later. It was 3 years later, but it still feels like momentum when you did well on that track once before. It's like you just go into things with with this optimism. It truly feels like momentum. So third career pro class podium for you, buddy. But I think this might have been the strongest overall performance from you, I think, that we've seen to date in your professional career, because you were in the mix. We can talk about it in a minute here, how crazy those battles were, those top 5 battles, but you were really in control of that top 3 spot. Or maybe I should say you just had, it's like you had set yourself apart from that group in the way that you were riding. So both motos, to do it in both motos and be clearly the podium guy, this was your best performance as a pro to me.
Yep, I agree. I think that this was the best I've performed. I have had podiums in the past, but this one was, like, I do feel like that third place spot was mine. I've heard some things already that, like, people think maybe otherwise, but no, I tried to really prove myself. Like, I took advantage of the day that I felt great. Like even in the qualifying, I didn't qualify well, but I knew. So I had issues in both qualifiers with my bike, and
okay.
I ended up like 7th, but I knew, like, going back to the trailer where I was at, I knew that if I could have put one good lap together, it was not going to be a 7.
Sure.
And so that helped me too. And it also fired me up. Like, I was really upset at the beginning of the day because I felt like there were some things out of my control, and I was kind of worried that the race was, like, not going to be how it could be, but it was out of my control. So I had that for, firing me up for the motos too.
Okay. Well, I love to hear, and I was going to say that before you just touched on what you touched on there, but you have a totally different sound in your voice now on the last episode. And I know how you are. So I'm sure those first couple races had wore you down a little bit in these big gaps. So you can't kind of flush it all or whatever, but you have, I don't know, there's an upbeatness in your voice right now that I love to hear. Obviously you should sound that way after the weekend you just had, but it had to feel good to kind of get back to where you thought you deserve to be, where you need to be. I feel like that just makes every little thing in life a little better,
Yeah. No, dude, like, after Texas, I was in such a bad spot, and it took a lot of, like, thinking to realize that, it's early in the year. Texas was not my style of track, but like, the biggest thing for me mentally, physically, everything is my prep going into the races. And going into High Point, my prep was phenomenal. Like my riding was great quality. I didn't have bike issues. I had engines running, and, like, I could finish motos if I wanted a moto, or if I was doing sprints. Everything was just perfect. Like, the tracks I was riding and my training, like, I've been so disciplined in like, I self-coach myself, right? And it's really hard sometimes to be like, self-disciplined to your own stuff. But
right. Yep.
I realized, like, maybe in the past I haven't been as disciplined as I need to be. So I really made sure my prep going into this race with my training and riding was just exactly what I planned myself for. And I nailed every session. And that is me as a racer. That is what matters most. Like, if my diet is great, my training is great, and my riding is quality, I'm going to go race, and, I'll probably be a different person compared to, like, the prep I had going into Texas, man. The prep was terrible. yeah, that's a big thing before we kind of talk about the motos.
Yeah. So, and I feel like there's no better feeling going to the line knowing like everything's the way it needs to be. Like your prep is good, you're ready. Like there's no better feeling than going to the line knowing like I'm good. Like I've done everything I need to do. I'm like set up to succeed in these races. The worst feeling is going to the line saying, man, I wish I would have done this. I should have done this. I wish this was this way. I wish that was that way. That's the worst feeling. I feel like that's kind of what you're touching on, right? Like as soon as you've done all the work, like everything's went, the prep work is done and it's went well. There's nothing to question. Like you've done all you need to do. I've set the table for myself and now it's time to eat.
Yep, exactly. Like the training side. So, I am literally addicted to everything with training and nutrition and making sure that every single thing I do, from sleep to every calorie I eat, right, is like going to make me perform on the race. Yep. And this whole prep, like, I mean, from the last 2 weeks going into High Point, I swear to you, like I made sure, dude, I tracked every calorie, like made sure, everything was so dialed in, and my resting heart rates were dropping right before the race. Like all these little things that not a lot of people really understand. I always use, and I knew that Saturday was going to be my day to at least, go to my full potential. So.
Yeah, that's special. And I've thought about this so much, over the course of the last handful of years, that it's a crazy thought to think as a racer, every single thing you do is built so you peak at that day, at that time. And there's only so many of you guys that are doing it that way. And then it sounds like, I mean, you're one of the very, very, very few that are taking it to the extreme. And like you talked about, when you're self-disciplined and self-trained and everything like you are, I feel like that probably makes, the highs and the great experiences like what this podium is, it probably makes it that much more special because you know how much you're suffering or sacrificing to get that.
Look, yeah. So this is how I look at my racing and everything. Okay. I do not feel talented. I know that people say otherwise. I don't feel talented. When I was growing up, I was a slow racer and never finished, top 5 at nationals, whatever. Yep. So I knew that wasn't the strong suit for me, and I have to pick it up somewhere else. And like, to me, that's my training and nutrition and sleep and heart rates and like all the stuff I do behind the scenes that people don't do. Is where I catch up and where I make up to where I am. Like, I got a 3rd place. So yeah, it wasn't a win, but where I'm at, like, those are the things I need to do for myself. Like I'm not a talented kid to where I can go slack off and then show up on race day and freaking, rip. I got to do the stuff that people won't do. And that's what's gotten me to where I am today.
Well, I mean, the way I've always viewed it is, and I know you take this to the extreme. I mean, you're such a grinder, but if you can give yourself that advantage, if I can give myself that advantage, like that's why wouldn't you? I mean, It takes somebody like you who's as disciplined as you are, who's steadfast as you are, but that's kind of always been, and again, I don't want to compare myself to you, but that's kind of always been my thinking too. Like, hey, if I can give myself some advantage, why wouldn't I? I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't.
Yeah. And I always look at other super successful people in different sport, and they do stuff that others won't do or don't do to get to where they are. And for me, that's just the way I look at with, like my extreme dieting or whatever. Like, I feel that's, if it helps me and, mentally I tell myself it's helping me, I'm going to do it,
Well, I was going to say before, it's all kind of tied together. Like you're talking about your mental game, that all coincides, right? Like I said, I mean, when you've dotted all your I's and all your T's are crossed, mentally that goes out that's out the door now. You don't even have to think about it. And I feel like it all ties together.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it works because Saturday I wasn't nervous. Like going to the gate, Moto 1, Moto 2,
Mm-hmm.
I was so calm that I could focus on my riding and executing a fairly good start. Like I could focus on what I needed to, and I wasn't thinking about the other BS. Like I
Yeah.
was just calm and ready to go.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, tell us about your day, because you were able to separate yourself ultimately, like we kind of talked about, but there were some crazy battles in the top 5 there, our tier 2 group that we call it in the fantasy game, but that was in both motos. Those battles were just wild. I mean, I don't think anybody was watching the dudes up front, because we were watching from, 3rd to 6th or 7th or whatever, that crazy battle that was going on. So to come out as the lead dog there from that gnarly pack, that gnarly battle, that has to bode well for your confidence going forward. So take us through your day and your 2 motos there.
Mm-hmm. So Moto 1, I got a fairly bad start actually, and
hey, did you see I posted that picture, and I'm like, where's Brandon Hoag? and then after Gloop said that you were off the screen, then I looked and I'm like, okay, maybe there's a little dust cloud there, but otherwise I stared at that picture for 10 minutes trying to figure out where the hell you were.
Yeah, that move actually. So if you look at the picture, all the dirt is prepped, like they just took the tiller through it.
Yeah, because
so I went way.
Because I was trying to look at I was looking at the ground like, okay, where are some tire tracks that I'm not accounting for here?
Right. Yeah. The way they tilled that, I went wide. Like my whole plan was just to try to sweep wide because I knew everyone would funnel in.
Okay.
And then I pulled front brake. I tipped up on the top of the turn, like very top. So I ended up blowing really wide. And then I saw that the dirt was smoother way off the side of the track. Like it wasn't tilled.
Yep.
So I went to the untilled dirt, powered, and it actually helped me out. Like I ended up passing, like I was pretty far back. So I ended up making a couple passes just from doing that. But it was kind of risky too, like how we had to funnel into the next right-hander.
Well, and you in that first moto, and I think we touched on this before we hit record on this thing, but that wasn't necessarily the easiest track to pass on. And you kind of had to go through that whole group of those really good tier 2 guys to ultimately finish 3rd in that moto. So that there had to be some craziness going on there.
Yeah. Like that first lap was really crazy. And I think Jeff ended up passing me on the first or second lap. And like he blew right on the outside of me. And I'm like, wow, like this guy's going to go forward. He's going to go, up to wherever. Mm-hmm. So I knew that whatever he was doing, I had to try to do too. And I ended up watching him. Like he ended up passing, Wesley and I think it was Danusa. I don't remember who it was, but
that was Jeffrey was really good there this weekend. Yeah. I felt like.
Yeah, he made passes work that I didn't even think of, and I give props to him for like it opened my eyes to that's what I need to do too.
Sure.
And that's exactly what I did. Like I watched him make passes, and then I was behind the riders, and I knew I had to start making stuff happen. And then I found the spots where I thought I was faster, and then made a couple passes. Like Wesley ended up making a mistake on his own, which allowed me to get by. And then me and Jeffrey, he tried to sweep like the turn on the very bottom. He tried to go wide. So I just shoved it in, and then I like came to a stop so he couldn't cut back under me.
Sure.
And then that's when I kind of got ahead of that pack. And then I knew I had to try to sprint away from them because, they could catch on to your lines or whatever.
Right.
So I knew I had to try to sprint.
Yeah, I mean that was I'll let you finish there, but that moto there was impressive when I went back and kind of recounted what I had seen in there, because by moto's end it's been so crazy, it's hard to take an inventory of like where everybody came from, but you were at the back of that, that pack of fast guys, got to the front of it. I just felt like that was super impressive to me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It felt good to do. And I tried to make good, clean passes and not, injure myself or somebody else, and like really plan them out, which they all worked out. And then I was able to put a sprint on at like the halfway, which I opened up a good gap, and then I could see where they were. And just rode it in for 3rd in that moto.
Yeah. And then in the second moto, you clearly got a better start there. And I touched on this too in our conversations previous, but I was impressed because you got in a battle there with Bryce there for a little bit before, kind of securing the third spot. And man, by moto's end, you were kind of within a straightaway, on the same straightaway as Chad by the end of the moto. So to, kind of on those longer straightaways, be, at the start of it, when he's at the end, I had been saying, and again, I had told you this personally, but I'm telling the listener, I had told the people around me, look at how close Brandon is to Chad. So different moto, the second moto was kind of different circumstances, but just as impressive for me.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. Yeah, that moto was really good for me too. I executed a good start right behind Joel, and then I really was focused on trying to sprint with him. I know he sprints early, and I wanted to stay as close as I can to him, but when I tried that, I actually ended up making mistakes, and like he had a good gap by, almost the first lap, and then at the very top, I was on the right side, and Bryce jumped to the inside of me, and I got like put over that berm, which, yeah, it was just like a one line deal. So but in the moment, I didn't think that way. I actually thought it was like it aggravated me.
Yeah.
And then that's when, like, it helped me though that I was aggravated. And then I knew he was probably going to sprint too. And then I didn't know who was behind me, but he like put a little gap in me that first lap, and then I'm like, all right, this is when I need to go. And then I just got right back to his grab bar. And then I heard Chad behind me, so I knew Chad was going to be trying to pass me while I was trying to pass Bryce. So like I tried to be safe, but tried to pass, so it was hard. And then I knew where Chad was setting me up too. Like I knew where he was going to try to pass me, and I tried to protect the inside up the little wall where the rollers were, and I lost traction, had to like downshift. It was just terrible. He passed me, and then I watched him pass Bryce like the same lap, and I'm like, damn it, that's what I needed to do. And then I think I was behind Bryce like another lap, and I knew where I was faster, and I knew what he was doing, like where I should try to make a move. And then he had a little bobble up before the uphill triple. I went to the inside, and then clean pass on him. He like ran into the back of me after I passed him, which that's all good. It's all good. Like, dude, stuff doesn't bother me. And then I checked out, like tried to sprint right when I got by him, which I was able to do. That was like halfway point or so. And then I did see Chad. Like I saw that I was starting to maybe catch him a little bit. It was hard to tell, but I just knew I was flowing pretty well. And
either way, I mean, the biggest thing was just that, when you have a guy like Chad and 20 minutes goes by and you can still see the guy, like that was the part that was impressive to me, because that doesn't necessarily often happen with anybody,
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I was pumped on mainly for the whole weekend was, like Joel had a really, I mean, he was ripping, and he put a good gap to me, but it was cool to be that close at the end to the, champ. But yeah,
it was pretty cool. So, so when I heard you on the podium and then you look at the pictures and stuff, like obviously there's, there's jubilation, there's joy, all these things, but I think it's different than the first two times around where, I don't know, there's like a feel of expectation. Like, I know, like it was just, it felt like, okay, now let's go. Like I've done it now, and you know how it is. Like you always kind of want to get the first one of whatever your goal is, but you get the first one of that season, and now it's like, okay, let's go. So, so I'm sure your first podium in 2019 is always going to be super special, but I have to believe that this one, after all you've been through over the course of the last year with injury, and you told us about limited support and question marks with that stuff coming in. And then, obviously everything's good there now. Like you've said, you're in a great spot with all of that, but have to believe with everything that you've overcome in the course of the last year or so, this has to have been pretty damn special.
Yeah, this one actually tops my first one, because it was like, the feeling is so different. Actually, this one was more of like I felt actually calmer with like my first podium. I was really just ecstatic, but this one, it's like, all right, this is what I needed to do. And I just want to keep going right now. Like, I don't want to live on the high or the lows anymore. I want to, like, the high moments are great, but let's move forward and let the ride and try to do the talking.
Well, that's kind of what I got, from your podium there, and the stuff that you've even said here is, I mean, you don't get that highest of highs when it's expected, so it just felt like expectation at this point, which I think is really special. And I just think that you're such a dangerous combination when you take your determination and, obviously, your I don't know, your dedication to your craft and, all your sacrifice that you're willing to put in, all those things, plus obviously your skill and your speed and everything. Like, that's a dangerous combination. And, you told us as we looked forward to this part of the schedule, where the series was going to go, 1 week on, 1 week off type of thing, for a while here. You had told us that that was something that you really looked forward to. So, coming off a great performance, and now, there's another race, next weekend or whatever. It feels like you're kind of getting hot, right at the right time. Like you're right where you need to be. You've got all this momentum. It's all good vibes. Hey, now you already get to go racing next weekend. Like, I feel like that's a great spot to be in. That's something that you've been looking forward to. So to be in this great of a spot and going racing already next weekend, like, that's perfect.
Yeah. I'm really pumped that we're racing. I think it's like 10 days now or 9 days or something, but I love the 2-week breaks. And especially like, what I did for High Point is what I'm doing for Aonia. Like, I'm really focused on one thing right now, and that's discipline, just self-discipline to my training, my nutrition, my riding. I'm done with where I put myself even earlier in the year. I kind of lacked a little bit of that, and right now I'm focused on discipline and I'm pumped with how we're going to be racing. Aonia is like a pretty tough track for me. I don't think it's a strong suit for me. So I'm excited to see. Yeah. I don't feel, I got fourth there last year, but I don't feel it really, like, I didn't ride that well. So,
but I feel like those conditions though are good for you. Yeah.
I hope it's similar as last year, because I feel a little better right now on that stuff, but
sure.
I do like the dirt, and I see it's going to be hot. I'm pumped, and I'm excited to try to really, back this up.
Yeah, well, I would think, I mean, like I said, I feel like you're good in those conditions. It'll obviously be a little rougher, but it's it's not crazy far off from like High Point like conditions. It won't be as slippery and stuff like that. But I feel like I remember you being super strong there last year. Obviously, going 4-4 is always a pretty solid day, especially when you're behind, Joel, Chad, and Thomas at the time. So I have to, you got to be bringing some confidence in from that as well. And I would imagine you're going to be a hot Digging Deep ATVMX fantasy pick when we get to Georgia. You paid off in a major way for ATV fantasy players at High Point. You were only owned by 4.5% of teams, but you were more valuable than any other rider on the board. And I texted you about this, but guys like my dad benefited in a huge way from believing in you. There's about 200 players playing this game, and he's leading the fantasy points after High Point, and you're a major reason for that. So it's pretty cool.
Man, I love that statistic of I saw that
4.5.
4.5%.
Yeah,
that's insane. Like,
I know.
Come on, man. I thought there was
hey, it ain't gonna be like that no more. I can promise you that. I can promise.
No, I love it. I love that statistic. It was funny when I read it. Like, I respect it. I don't think people really probably, you know, I was a cupcake, so the 4.5% is pretty accurate, but it's cool to see.
It is cool. You know, the whole thing is pretty cool. I'll say that. So this was the first race that, you know, I had been at in person in 2021. So the first time that I've been in person for one of these races since we started this game. And, you know, there was crazy battles going on. So I would have been watching those battles anyway, but I was more watching the rest of the riders throughout the pack more than ever before because of the game. Like, I truly believe so. Like these 200 people that are playing the game have like more of a cheering interest, you know, than, you know, like throughout the pack, you know what I mean? Like you have to pick, you have to pick 4 riders of the 16 to 20 that are on the track or whatever. So you're staying in tune with those riders, which, you know, going back to, you know, digging deep at the beginning, like I was like, hey, I'd like to cover everybody a little bit. So, you know, there's not just focused on the front guys, because we obviously know that the front guys get more coverage than anybody else and they deserve that. But I felt like I could fill some of the gaps. Well, you know, then, you know, fast forward 2 years or whatever, now we got this fantasy game and it's literally helping you know, people focus on the other riders. It's forcing them to focus on the other riders. So people would have been watching you either way, Brandon, but it's cool that the game is helping people like have to focus on other riders, and they're having to weigh, you know, go behind you. They're having to weigh Logan Stanfield with Vitek Nakenyak and Cody Ford and Michael Allred, and having to pick one of those guys to choose from. Like, it's it honestly, like, it's something I'm pretty proud of at this point, because people really supported it. And I feel like it's adding to the fan experience. I truly believe that.
I truly agree. That's a good point. Like, everyone's kind of watching now saying like, oh, I hope this guy passes this guy because of this.
You were a half a lap ahead of Logan Stanfield. And, you know, I'm watching the leaders, and then I'm watching you guys. And then I'm still like having to watch, you know, back there because they're on their team too, you know, like it is pretty cool. Like, I don't know. It's crazy to me sometimes that we were able to pull something like this off, because it's not that far off from like a fantasy football feel. And we did it with our sport, our niche little sport that we love so much. It's pretty cool. It really is.
Yeah. Hats off to you for doing it. Like, I think it's great. It's a great idea. Great that you put it together. And I think it's like really positive for, like you said, the sport and people watching, and it's just great, man.
So I had got the suggestion a few times, and I'm like, dude, there's no way we can do that.
Yeah.
So to get where we are now, it's awesome. Pretty cool. It's no different than the podcast, you know, where we got people in 70 countries listening to this. Like, it still blows my mind, but it blows my mind that many people care. But it is cool. I tell people all the time that, you know, we like our sport being niche, it makes it so that people who love it or whatever, who are into it, they really love it. So it's like when you get something else to enjoy, like a fantasy game, or to hear Brandon Hoag talk about his podium day, like prior to this, you didn't get anything like this really. And so I think it's cool, because I think back to like when I was a kid or whatever, and you wish there was more of this. So hopefully, you know, going forward, like people who are into it now, young kids or just fanatics or whatever, they're able to enjoy the sport a little more because of what we're doing. Like, that makes me feel good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
So, and they know you better, right? Like, otherwise, like we all, like, you know, cause you were a super fan of the sport too. Like, unless you were a super fan and then, or you knew some of these guys in person, like there would have been ATV pros in the past that you didn't necessarily know a ton about. And, you know, now we're able to hear you and hear your personality and hear the way you think and the things you enjoy and whatever. Like, I feel like that just gives everybody a little more of a cheering interest.
Yeah. It gives them more of like, more an insight on who I am or who anybody is in the sport, which is freaking great.
Yeah. It takes you inside the helmet. Like, that's what I look at. Cause otherwise, you know, you just know Brandon Hoag, the rider, and there's so much more to you than that.
Yeah. And like you just said, it's great because I feel like there is a lot of people, like spectators or whatnot, that don't know me as a person and maybe get the wrong image. So it's cool to, like, I hope to try to give my true image of of myself compared to maybe what they would think.
Yeah, well, and I think that you're somebody that so many of us cheer for because you're so like genuine. You wear your heart on your sleeve, and you're just I mean, it's cool like to hear, you know, you're able to tell us like, hey, I need to do things this way to be successful. Like to take us through that kind of thinking, that really real, genuine kind of thinking. That's the stuff that I love to hear. Like you talked about, and you know, I'm a sports guy. You talked about, you know, athletes and other sports. I always feel like the more I learn about somebody, like you end up being like, yeah, I want to cheer for that guy. So I feel like that's some of the gaps we're trying to fill here. And I'll tell you, nobody comes away from your interviews with any other response than, hey, I'm going to cheer for that guy.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's what I really want. Like, I would love to be really open about everything. Like everything I do, say, for example, to like all the way down to what I was talking about earlier with my training and nutrition. I love to be open about, you know, if someone DMs me and asks me, hey, like, what do you do when you train right there? You know, I tell them exactly what I do. Like, I feel like there's no reason to hide what I do. I like to be that open person because I was the kid, you know, when I was 12 years old that wanted to know what this guy was doing or guy.
I was going to say that. I mean, you were the guy in Joel Hetrick's DMs.
Yeah. I was DMing Joel, you know, 20 times and he would read them or whatever. And I'm like, damn it. Like one day he's going to answer me. And it's cool that, you know, like we talk about that to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We went through our messages like when I was 12 and I would be like, hey, how do you whip? And like, does this whip look good? Like, can you give me a shout out? You know, like I was that kid and
I know.
And if I can be, I do too. I want to be open and like, you know, if there's a kid in my DMs asking me something, I will be, you know, more than happy to like tell them everything, you know?
Well, so I always think it's cool too for people to hear, for parents, for kids, for whoever to hear that like that kid that you was able to make it where you are today. And your story, more than maybe anybody's, is just like never giving up. Like you were going to will yourself to get to where you are today. Like, you know, there's the stories that like you just told, and then the stories of you running Joel Hetrick, you know, like Joel Hetrick replica graphics with his logos and everything, and that whole debacle and all that. Like just to think about all that is crazy, is it not?
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. You know how we were texting earlier with
that. Yeah.
I wanted to go into detail on a lot of stuff. Okay. Because so I've done like, you know, I've done a couple riding schools now, and I've just been around parents with kids, and you'd be amazed at like how many kids I see where I'm like, wow, that was me. Like that was me, you know, out on that track, you know, like I can watch a kid or see what the parents are saying to him. And I'm like, I want to go up to the dad and say, just let him do his thing. Like I was that exact kid, you know, like, like don't, there's a lot I wish I could say, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you.
Okay. So, and we're going to get into this a little bit later in the episode that, you know, after we kind of finish up here with you, but yeah, I mean, so we're doing this Impact Solutions, Impact Moment segment. And that's one of the things I want to touch on. I've preached about it on the podcast before. I had an in-depth conversation with some people at the racetrack this last weekend about just the typical moto dad thing and whatever. And it's like, and I know you're the same way. And you had been around me, so, you know, I've always been this way, but it's like, I'm so much about positive reinforcement and building people up. And that's the best way to get good things. The best out of somebody is building them up and all those things. And it's like, I see some things that go on at the races and it just breaks my heart because what I don't want, my biggest fear is that you have a kid who loves this sport, and then for whatever reason, their love or their excitement or their joy for the sport is stolen from them from something else that's out of their control. And that's kind of gonna be the message when we get to the segment later in the show. Because that's a big fear for me, you know, like, you and I grew up just adoring this stuff, but we were given environments where we didn't have everything, but we were able to just go do our thing. And if I mean, we were always competitive. We were always going to try our best. We were always going to do our best, but that's all you can ask. Like, go do your best, go try your best, whether it's first or last, as long as you're having fun and as long as you're trying hard. If I had a child, that would be the message I would be preaching. So going back to my riding schools, now you're teaching riding schools now. It's all about like, you're a friend to those kids, right? Like you're building them up, and you just want to be another positive role model, positively reinforce them and build them up. And that's something that needs to be said sometimes, because I think that it can just snowball and not singling anybody out, but competitive nature kind of takes over at times. And I don't want that to steal the love or the joy that ATV motocross creates for so many people.
No, but there's been quite a few moments where I've actually walked out, like at a school, for example. I walked on the track. I was watching a kid ride, and I watched some things happen after he pulled off.
Okay.
I walked up to the kid and had a full-on heart-to-heart with him, and was like, I told him my story and told him that, look, I'm watching from the outside. I want you to know, like, I care, and you are great. You are doing great. I don't care what anyone says. Like, you're having fun. I want you to keep having fun. I know your parents can be hard on you, but you have a future, and whatever you want to do with the way you are. Like, if quad racing, if you want to be a pro, you can be.
You're proof.
Because I feel, and I try to really, like, I've had some really deep heart-to-hearts in the past couple of years with just little kids, where I care about that. So, like, it's such a good feeling, it's like, I wish I could do that more, because I was that kid. And it's not even about racing at that point. It's about life. Like,
exactly.
Like, if I had a guy come up to me, a pro that I look up to when I was that age, and told me that, it doesn't just change for racing, but it changed for like anything I would do. If I went and tried something else, I would remember him telling me, I can do that.
Well, you never know the impact that you're making on somebody, the magnitude of it. And it is fresh on my mind, and we can tie it up after this, but it is fresh on my mind because kind of touching on this subject last weekend, I just went up to a kid after seeing some stuff go down and told him I believed in him, knowing that he wasn't getting that back at his trailer.
Yep.
And sometimes that's all we need. Sometimes maybe you or I, that's what we needed at some point. Like, we needed to know that, hey, somebody believes in me. And I just I think that that's something that can't be preached enough. The positivity, the building of people up. And you know how it is. Like, that's how you get the best out of somebody. You don't the drill sergeant, old school football mentality, that doesn't work. Like, don't kick somebody while they're down.
Yeah, and I see too much of that, and not enough positivity, because I don't understand the whole deal with trying to be a drill sergeant and
me neither,
and run kids into the ground. I don't ever see that really work. Like,
that makes no sense to me. It makes no sense.
It doesn't.
I'm gonna just curl up in a ball and be in my shell if somebody does that to me today, let alone 20 years ago.
Yeah, real quick, my dad and my mom and dad, they were the parents that, so they actually didn't care at all about, if I wanted to ride or whatever. They didn't care. They would say, like, sure. So I actually came with the growing up of, like, I wanted them to care a little bit more. Like, I would be like, man, I really want to go ride. Like, I wanted to show them how much fun I was having. I came from that background, which also is unique, because most parents are on the opposite spectrum, where they care too much about this or that. My parents didn't care at all, and I wanted them to care. So I would be like, I would overemphasize how much fun I had and whatnot.
Well, I feel like again, you just to tie a bow on that, can't let the competitive nature become too much. I mean, that's how my parents were. That it wasn't like they were competitive, like my dad was a racer himself, so he was competitive and wanted me to do well or whatever. But as long as you're trying hard, like, I was a chubby little kid on a mini quad that, was at the back of the pack. But if I was trying hard and I was having fun, that's really all that mattered. Right. So
Yes.
that's something, and I've said it before on the show. I don't know that I've said it to you, but that's the one thing, if I could change anything about my entire racing career, I just wish I could go back in time. And this was probably just my own doing at the time, but I wish I could go back to my, during my pro career and tell myself to just have more fun. And it seems so simple, but as I'm saying, not only is positivity good, not only is building people up good, but if you're having fun, that's probably when you're going to be the most successful too. So,
yes.
So many people listen to these things on the way to go ride or on the way to go, to the races or whatever, or train. So if you guys are on the way to the races right now, just focus on having fun, focus on, being positive, building each other up. And that's probably how you're going to get the best out of each other.
Yep. And the more fun you have, it just builds and builds and builds. Just like you said, you start succeeding, then it's even more fun. Sure, you have some drop downs or some failures or whatnot, but the big picture is just the keep it enjoyable in whatever way you can.
Absolutely. Yep. And when you suffer one of them crappy days in between, I always tell people it's the crappy days that make us truly appreciate the good ones,
And and man, that's the episode I want to have with you. Is I want to go into detail on crappy days, on, I will tell you everything about, like, I just feel like I have some stuff that I could share that are pretty dang deep that, we could go into and it would be good for parents and good for kids or whatever.
Yeah. I would love to. That's something that we should do sometime going forward, because it's this message that we're including here, which I think is so valuable, but it's something I wish I could say on every episode and preach it and scream it out the back of my trailer into the pits and all these things, because it's like, you just can't say it enough. You can't say it enough, because we've all seen it. We've all seen it at local tracks, national tracks, at T-ball, at little league stuff. It happens everywhere. And with the platform you have, with the platform I have, hopefully we can impact a person or two in the meantime.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, so we'll tie a bow on that. And, we needed to talk to you. We talked to you heading into High Point. We needed to talk to you afterwards, after you slayed it. And we had to get you back on here to talk about it. So grateful that we could do that. Happy to do that with you, relive an awesome day at the races, and then to get into some deeper stuff there. And we will have to do that again going forward, because that's something that I'm super, super passionate about.
I would love to. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, great job. I'll let you go on that note. Thanks again for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you. And I look forward to you slaying it for my fantasy team in Georgia. Okay.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks for real quick to end it. I was just doing math in my head. You said there's 200 people in the fantasy, right?
Yeah, there's like 197 or something.
So that means about, I think if my math's right, about 5 people.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. And it's crazy. Now I will say that second tier is the hardest one by far, because now Bryce is going to be in there going forward, at least for the time being.
Right.
But Bryce is in there, and you're in there, and Jeffrey's in there, and Janusa's in there, and Wesley Wolf's in there. And I don't know if I said Jeffrey, but that's such a crazy tier. Like it's awesome as race fans to have that kind of competitiveness in the class. And you want to be the guy to step up and be at the top of that pack. And I think that's awesome. That's fun to see. That's why we're following it the way we're following it. But it is exciting to not just have 3 guys that you're slotting into the podium every week, even though Brandon Hoag wants to be that guy.
Yeah, that tier is tons of fast dudes. So that's, wow. Yeah, that's a tight one.
Yeah. Well, again, buddy, I appreciate you being here for this and all the awesome conversation, and I look forward to doing it again.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. That's Brandon Hoag, brought to you by CST Tires, shop.csttires.com. Good job, pal. Safe travels. Good luck. And thanks again.
Thanks. See ya.
We'll get right back to the show But now, a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. Welcome to the team, two-time champ Joel Hetrick, who dropped the biggest news of the offseason when he announced his move to CST Tires. The CST takeover has been gaining momentum over the past several seasons, and now Joel Hetrick and his Phoenix Racing teammate Jeffrey Rastrelli are the most recent additions. The Pulse MXR tire has helped lead riders like Thomas Brown to race wins and 3 consecutive Quad Cross of Nations titles, Nick Janusa to the Pro Class podium, myself Cody Jansen as I rode my Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears to back-to-back national championships in the Junior 25 Plus class, and the most recent additions have us thinking a Pro Class national championship is on the horizon for CST tires. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover today, or prepare to be beat by someone who did. Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, myself, and so many others are believers in CST tires. Are you? CST Tires, where passion meets the ground. You already know we're Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. Whether it's second all-time winningest, 7-time and reigning ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, or 6-time and current XC1 Pro ATV GNCC National Champion Walker Fowler, it's clear the podium-proven Yamaha YFC 450R is the winning choice of sport ATVs. This unprecedented success for the YFC 450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the undeniable fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has created a Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Better yet, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program is back and even stronger for 2021, meaning Yamaha riders are about to cash in on higher payouts and more prize opportunities, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com, follow them on social media at Yamaha Outdoors, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. For over 150 years, Valvoline has led the charge by being dedicated to constant improvement and innovation across all disciplines of racing. Valvoline has sponsored some of the greatest names in motorsports, and for the better part of a decade, I've been fortunate enough to be part of the historically great Team Valvoline. From my commuting vehicles to small engines, race quads, and everything in between, I trust nothing but Valvoline in all of my equipment. I've experienced increased function and durability as well as a longer life expectancy thanks to Valvoline's array of products and lubricants. Since 1866, Valvoline has been focused on bettering your experience, whether on road, on track, and everywhere in between. Upgrade to Valvoline today and check them out at valvoline.com. SSI Decals is a name synonymous with ATV racing, synonymous with big-time success, and absolutely synonymous with the best-looking decals around. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. With what started as just making numbers and decals for riders like Chad Wienen, the company quickly took off, and today you couldn't imagine ATV motocross without SSI decals. The graphics maker and designer now supports all the top teams in ATV motocross, as well as teams and riders racing GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and, oh yeah, 6-time NHRA World Champion Clay Milliken. No project is too big or too small for SSI decals, making your identity stick with championship-level graphics. Head over to SSIDecals.com today and then maybe call the doctor because things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their range of championship-winning chains. Powered by technology, DID chains are designed to give you the greatest strength-to-weight ratio, making them the optimal chain for racing and giving you a championship-level edge. DID has been driving championship-winning race programs since 1933, chosen by champions such as Chad Wienen, Joel Hetrick, and myself, Cody Jansen. Champion above the rest is DID's 520 ATV2 chain, with those same design principles and materials being used throughout their entire line of products, including their on-road category as well. Pick up a DID chain today at your local dealer or reputable online e-tailer. DID, what drives you.
We are proud to be partnered with Numera Technologies. Since 2001, Numera has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Numera's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, that allows for tighter tolerances and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Numera's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, and industry-leading top-end repair kits, visit your local dealer or online at www.numera.com. Numera Technologies, pistons with an attitude. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals like rods and cylinders, all the way down to suspension parts and bearing kits, Bronco is your hard part source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world. Visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com. Forworks Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, gas tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, Forworks has the goodies that will improve your ride and make you salivate. We trust Forworks for increased function and a sexier look, and you should too. Forworks Carbon, always working hard to bring high quality and innovative parts to the market. Check them out today at fwcarbon.com.
Okay, after that podium, Brandon now sits sixth in points, but only 6 points separates third through sixth. So it feels like this whole grouping is a toss-up yet through 3 races here in 2021. Leading that pack, tied for third in the series, is Nick Janusa. He had a strong 4th place finish in Moto 1, but he suffered a mechanical and a flat tire in Moto 2 and still somehow managed to salvage 7th overall. So good job to Nick Janusa there. Logan, his speed in 2021 continues to impress me. I think it's the best that we've ever seen it. He still looks like the best version of himself. He's going to be a tough guy to beat because he's so consistent. Like, even when you look at it like this, I mean, he was good in that first moto. And then after all this other crap that goes on, he still salvages 7th overall. He's still right there in the points. That's what's going to make him so tough. His speed is better than ever before, I feel like, and his consistency is still right where it needs to be.
I completely agree. Nick was completely under the radar last year, pretty much all year. Mm-hmm. And this year, like we talked about in previous, he came into Daytona kind of, nobody knew what to expect. He didn't even know what to expect. I have an interview from him for the next documentary I'm doing. He's in it. And like we talked about it, he's like, I didn't know, but he said that the cold weather riding in New Jersey during the off season actually worked out in his benefit. And I mean, it shows on the track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if it hardened him or whatever the case may be. But he figured something out. So like Casey said, maybe everybody's going to be heading up there to train in the cold going forward. But yeah, fourth overall, moving on to the next rider, 4th overall for the 3rd consecutive time to kick off his professional career, Max Lindquist. What else can you say about this 17-year-old other than how the heck is he a rookie? I don't know what else to say. I really don't. And I'm blown away. 3 races in now. He's been 4th at every race. And he just, like, it took only a race or 2. And now it's like you see him there and it's like, yeah, that's where he belongs. That is wild to me that's a rookie. Just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the speed, I don't think anybody was expecting that, but the consistency is a whole nother thing. Like, there hasn't been any riders who have come in rookie year and they've all like had some sort of speed, but they've never had this level of consistency. And I think that shows a lot of what he's going to be capable of in this year and the upcoming years.
Well, and a few things too, like, so he's not necessarily getting great starts and he's still managing to pull this off. And he's already, so again, we're only 3 races into his career here, his professional career. And he's already developed this mantra that, hey, watch out at the end of the races because Max Lindquist is coming. He's like must watch. He's must watch right now. And the battle's going forward because he ain't going anywhere over the next however many years. The battle's going forward with these young riders in the pro class is going to be sick.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be so awesome. I think this year, we talked about it before, I think it's the middle of the field is the most stacked that it's ever been. Mm-hmm. And somehow Max is finding a way to basically blast through it and finish right ahead of them or right in the front of them every single weekend.
Honestly, that grouping of riders, again, those tier 2 riders, that was the race to watch in both motos. Like the leaders were doing their thing. Joel was checking out. Chad was, riding in second. That battle of those guys was the race to watch all weekend. Like you said, bumping and banging and just in a line. It was like just a pack of those guys. It was really crazy to see.
Yeah, I think it was the second moto where I have that one. I posted this video yesterday where they're all so close. And right after I filmed that part, I literally yelled. I'm like, this is so awesome. Yeah. I'm like, that's rare because I'm at every race. I pretty much see everything. But I was so excited during that moto just because it's never that tight.
Well, and to think that, you go into these races and however many years you went in thinking, knowing it was going to be Joel and Chad, and then it was probably going to be Thomas, or it was going to be Thomas and Jeffrey or whatever. And right now, like, you don't know who's going to be the third guy on the podium. You don't know, like, you truly don't know when you get to the racetrack. That's an awesome thing for us.
Yeah. I mean, there's 5 riders who can be in third every single weekend, and there's so much more excitement. I mean, it's bad to say, but the fact that Joel got hurt at the first round and he's coming back from that, everybody loves his comeback. Everybody is pushing for him so much more and is excited because he's not just out front in points and dominating. He may be doing that at the races, but there's more of a challenge. There's more of a battle in the series as a whole.
Yeah, there's so many good storylines right now. I feel like, speaking of good storylines, Jeffrey Rastrelli grabbed 5th overall on the day. It was hard fought for Jeffrey, who was battling inside the top 5 from start to finish of both motos. He got some solid hole shots. I know he wants more than top 5s, but I was really impressed by Jeffrey. He hung in there. Like, we know that, his health in years past has been a question mark and stuff. He hung in there in both motos and battled from gate drop to finish line, to checkered flag, both motos within that gnarly group. I was really impressed by Jeffrey. I thought that was a really good day to come away with a top 5 overall, with the way he had to battle for it. I thought that was really, really, really good for him. And if he's able to do that in all the races going forward, if he can just put himself in those positions, it's going to bode well for him. And we're going to see him on the podium one of these weeks.
And the competition he has right now is definitely not easy. That might've been one of the hardest races he's ever had, because I mean, for us watching, it was one of the closest races we've ever seen. So I'm sure it wasn't easy to battle like that for the entire race.
Hey, and that's what I was thinking when I was watching these races, those motos, and watching them guys battle with each other and whatever. And I'm thinking, they're 3/4 of the way through the moto. And I'm thinking what it must be like for Jeffrey, like what his heart rate is at right now and whatever, just had to be crazy. So the way he hung in there, the way all those guys hung in there, but for Jeffrey, I just thought that was a really good ride. And again, I know that he wants more than top 5s, but I wanted to make sure that got enough coverage, that got enough talk, because that was a really impressive top 5. I thought, like you said, especially because those dudes that he's racing against, like, nobody wants to give anybody an inch there.
No.
So those battles between those tier 2 riders was wild. Like I said, literally from start to finish, both motos relentlessly. And Wesley Wolf was at the center of that as well. A scrappy 5th in Moto 1, but snubbing his bike in the finish line corner set him way back in Moto 2. He had to push start his bike and ultimately ended up 14th there, which meant 10th overall on the day for Wesley. But he's another guy that's been impressive. His riding, the box score doesn't show it, but his riding was incredible. And he was another guy that was battling to the death, it felt like, in those motos. He's been really impressive. He's another guy. I mean, that's what's made that tier so crazy, is that basically every one of those guys took a step forward, and Wesley definitely took a step forward this year, if not a couple steps forward. Yeah,
he definitely showed it at Daytona, getting his first podium.
But he hasn't disappointed since then, though, right? Like, I'm sure you feel the same way. I mean, he's maybe not been on the box, but his riding is not the riding we've seen in years past.
Yeah, he's always had a decent amount of speed. He's always looks like he's going really fast, but he's never, showed it in the results. But this year he's definitely changing that.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Wesley. Bryce Ford was fast, runner up in qualifying, I believe. He had 3 or 4 sizable mistakes though in Moto 1 that held him back there, but he rebounded in Moto 2 with a strong fourth, battled with Brandon Hoag there for a while. So with 11-4 Moto scores on the day, Bryce salvaged 6th overall and is tied with Nick Janusa for 3rd in the series points heading into Georgia. I know he wasn't happy. Bryce wasn't happy with that. He voiced his opinion about that on one of the posts I posted in the last couple of days. But as far as damage control goes, was actually pretty solid. He came out not nearly as bad as it could have been at High Point, and still right there in the points mix, top 3. So Logan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We've witnessed 3 races here in 2021 so far. Who's going to take that 3rd spot when the dust settles on this season?
If I'd narrow it down to 3, Brandon, Max, or Bryce.
Okay.
Then it just comes down to consistency. And I know Max Lindquist is going to be consistent all year. Mm-hmm. Brandon Hoag and Bryce Ford, they're not going to be as consistent. Like Bryce made mistakes. I know Brandon makes mistakes every once in a while.
Yeah.
So it's just going to come down to who's more consistent, I think. One of those 3 is my guess.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's super hard to bet against Janusa for me. Like Janusa, we know, I mean, dating back his entire professional career, he's been that consistent guy right in the mix. And I think that his consistency might be the one that, kind of outlasts the others. We've seen, I mean, how can you argue against Max? He's been, right there. But I mean, the margin for error is so small with all those guys that, Bryce right now might have more speed, but he might not be quite as consistent. I mean, maybe he makes a mistake here and there because he's going for it just a tick more than the other guys. I don't know. But I was curious to get your opinion there, because it's so tough. I mean, Bryce has the speed, Nick Janusa has probably the consistency, but I don't want to discredit him on any speed. And then Max as well. But I think it does probably come down to, I mean, those guys. But now I haven't mentioned Brandon Hoag, and in my mind, I mean, at least right now, man, in listening to his interview, like, between his speed is so good, his mindset is so good. Like he will do anything, and his commitment is so there that, man, it's hard to bet against him too. So it's going to be really tough, but it's awesome. Like I said before, as fans, to be 3 races in and not really know, like, that's awesome. That's a great place to be in as fans of the sport. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's so cool. It's something we've been lacking for a while, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. So let's wrap up the rest of this class here. So we went through the top 7 so far. Joel obviously gets the win. Chad, Brandon Hoag finishes the podium. Max Lindquist was 4th. Jeffrey Rastrelli was 5th overall. Bryce Ford was 6th. Nick Janusa was 7th. 8th was Logan Stanfield. He was our top tier 3 rider. Thought that was a really solid day for him. When you look at the riders ahead of him, how stacked this class is, in 8th, no matter what, is a good spot to be in. That's a good finish. So good job for Logan Stanfield there. Cody Ford was 9th overall. I think that was a really solid finish for him. He followed up his best finish in nearly 2 seasons that he had at Three Palms. Followed that up with a 9th overall this weekend. He's already earned more single digit finishes. So 1st to 9th, more single digit finishes in 2021 through 3 races than all of 2020. So it's good to see Cody back healthy, back kind of showing what he's capable of. He's a grinder. He got some good starts this weekend. I know you've spent some time around those guys, but it was really good to see Cody up in the mix. That's where he belongs.
I have to say, this is the first time I've ever mistaken Cody for Bryce multiple times. Like I think it was the first, second, I don't know which moto, but I was filming him, and then Bryce would come around, and I thought he was Bryce. It was just, he looked so good, so aggressive on the bike, and I think that's something that's definitely going to show in his results.
didn't hurt that they were wearing the same gear as well.
No, it did not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Robin said. She said that they were twinning. So so yeah, that was really good finish for him in 9th. Like we said, Wesley Wolf was 10th overall. He rounded out the top 10. Vitek Kenyak, 11th overall. I'm going to tell you, I was crazy impressed with this guy. So he finished 8th in the second moto. He was right in between Logan Stanfield and Cody Ford the whole race. And I was kind of interested. I mean, this was the first time I was going to see him in person, but I was interested on that kind of racetrack. It was a different kind of racetrack. It was hard packed. There's some big hits, good speed. I was interested to see what he looked like on that kind of racetrack. And obviously that second moto was the best showing he's had all year. I mean, to run with Logan Stanfield and Cody Ford, guys that have been at those racetracks, that know that racetrack, that this is normal for them, for him to hop in here coming over from Poland, this is only his 3rd race, to be racing with those guys, I was really, really, really impressed. So VTEC is going to move up into the tier 3 riders. I thought that going forward, as we head to Georgia here for when we talk about ATV fantasy, to ride with Logan and Stanfield and Cody Ford, to be right in the mix with those guys, I was watching it like, well, he proved it. He belongs with that faster grouping. So I was really impressed. You got anything you want to touch on with him? Because, man, 11th overall doesn't show how good he actually was.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched VTEC ride a bunch, but I mean, just the fact that he's here from Poland and he's racing, people underestimate how fast these guys are actually going. Like, you don't understand how fast Joel is until he's at a local track. So the fact that he's here getting 11th is honestly insane. Yeah,
it's awesome. I'm so happy for him. And he was a great listener, great guy when we had him on one of the previous episodes here. For a guy I'm definitely pulling for. So he was 11th. 12th was Cesar Jimenez. Good solid ride for him. 13th was Vince Merman. This was his first pro race, really, because he got hurt in the heat race at Daytona. So awesome to have him back out there. I think he's going to be a guy to watch in that grouping of tier 4 riders going forward. I think that he's going to be on the rise for sure. 14th was Michael Allred, new father, new dad. Michael Allred flipped at the start of Moto 2. So he had some hurdles to overcome there, but Michael's been pretty solid all year long. So 14th, again, doesn't show how good he was on the day. But that's a guy that's been right in the mix all year long. 15th was Michael Perkins. He dealing with some shoulder injuries and stuff, but great to have him back out there. Shot him a message going into the weekend to see if we could expect him to be out there, and he stuck it out. So that was really good. 16th was Zach Harris in his rookie professional debut. He's a Virginia rider, number 22. So he came 16th there. And then 17th, Marshall Smith. Cool story here. 45-year-old made his professional debut at High Point, kind of realizing a lifelong dream. He came up and introduced himself, and that was really cool. I made a post about him kind of heading into the race. I just wanted people to know the story, and I thought it was something that people should know. And I think it went over really well. I mean, it got 300-400 shares and a bunch of comments, so I was feeling really good because think about that, at 45 years old, kind of realizing a lifelong goal like that. He was just super pumped to be out there. He had some realistic goals of not wanting to get lapped and be in the mix in the starts and stuff like that. And he was right in the mix on some starts, and sounds like he'll be at the next race. So that was a pretty cool story to hear.
Yeah.
So moving on from the pro class, then that'll wrap that up. Let's cover a few more topics, starting with the pro stock class. Great racing there. And Logan, I'm sure you heard a little bit about the pro stock drama. How could you not? So let's welcome on a guest who knows all about the pro stock topic and a whole lot more. Enjoy. All right, guys, this next guest is a national championship winning mechanic, brought to you by SSI Decals, making your identity stick with championship level graphics. Check out SSI's new and improved website today at ssidecals.com. Say hello to reigning Mechanic of the Year award winner, wrench for Chad Wienen, Mr. Michael Byrd. What's up, man? Welcome to Digging Deep. Stoked to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be on the show. Thanks, Cody.
So let's give the listeners a little backstory here. So we're going to have you on in the previous episode, but then the pro stock drama blew up, and we decided maybe it was best to pump the brakes on that for a bit. So slight delay, but stoked to have you here. And not only have you been mechanicking for Chad for the past couple seasons, but you also have a connection to Mark Baldwin. You work for Baldwin Motorsports. So I feel like you're as plugged into the epicenter or at the epicenter of ATV motocross as someone could possibly be. So you're a perfect guy to have on.
Yeah, it's I've actually been around the sport since probably the late 90s. I met Mark Baldwin probably around 1998 at a local track.
Okay.
Him and Tim Farr would come and race and just wax everybody at these tracks, and his bike would be pristine, polished Douglas wheels. Under the lights, it was I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Sure. So then that's got to be pretty special. I mean, you fast forward however many years later, and to be a Baldwin guy, that's got to be pretty cool. Yeah,
it's definitely very cool.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like that's something that so many people want to do. They want to be able to, have a profession that's something that you truly enjoy. So that's awesome in itself. So let's talk about Chad's day a little bit at High Point there. He started off with a tumble after practice started qualifying. You never see the guy hit the ground. So it looked like he pretty crazy there. It looked like maybe he bent up the bike a little bit there. Did he make some extra work for you? Because it looked like the front of that thing, whether it was the bumper or whatever, something was a little bent.
It was a lot bit. It was a lot. We had to even go in and change the alignment because maybe a Heim or two were bent up also. But I don't have time to watch him go all the way down the whole shot and come around the corner. I got to pick a gate and do a little bit of prepping before he gets back. I was waiting for him, wondering what, was he drinking water, talking to a fan? And he comes back and I see this mangled mess. And what do you want me to do, Chad? What?
On a practice start all by himself. Like, what the heck?
Right. So, he said, just take the bumper off. So that's what he did. Yeah,
okay.
Just take it off.
Okay. So other than that, it was a pretty solid status quo day for him. I feel like, he rebounded from that incident. If that was the craziest incident of the day, I think we'll take that. And, he rebounded for a solid 2-2 performance on the day. He maintains his points lead, tightening up a little bit there. You had said to me that you thought he may have an ace up his sleeve for High Point, but from listening to Chad, it sounds like he just didn't get the starts he needed to give him a fair chance on Saturday.
Yeah, it was definitely the starts. I think the first moto, he was in the bottom end of that start.
Yeah.
And it probably took him a half lap to get up to, I want to say 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of work right there just to get up there. And I seen him taking a lot of lines he normally wouldn't take, but when you have to make the passes, you got to find a different line. You can't just move people yourself.
Right. And that's not the easiest track to pass on either,
No, it's not. And then, once you get up into second place, if Joel gets a hole shot, he's already gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much where we were at, unless he gets a start and he can just apply pressure the whole time. I think Joel already had probably maybe 12 seconds on him or so by the time he got up into second.
Mm-hmm.
So I was more or less just giving him the splits on who was behind him. I think it was the second moto when Hoagie's like getting close. And I kept telling Chad, hey, you better turn it back on, man.
Right. So we just had him on the show, and he was saying that he's like, man, somebody told me that on the pit board even, that they put Hoag's coming, and he was tickled pink about that.
Yeah. Well, Chad, he said he on certain corners he'd turn around and watch.
Yeah.
So what do you want me to write, Chad? Because he's trying to do it all himself.
Right.
And I think I tried to grab Tim Detling's pit board. I was going to write slow down on it, but he wouldn't let me have it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So solid day there for Chad. When you get dealt those kind of starts on that kind of track too, I feel like he made the most of his day, especially, overcoming that little tumble there, just an uncharacteristic thing for him. So I feel like that was a solid day to get out of there on Saturday. I mean, I feel like when you're dealt those cards, if you make kind of the, what's the saying? You got your lemonade there that you made out of the lemons that were given to you there. I feel like that was okay. And then good for him. And then on Sunday, comes the pro stock action. And with all the recent talks, I think that it was probably even probably stoked the fire more even for that class. And Chad did the opposite on Sunday, though. He grabbed a couple great hole shots there, took the overall win with a 2-1 performance, close racing all day with Joel Hetrick, and Nick Janus was up there as well. But with everything going on, I bet that one had to feel pretty good for Chad.
That one, yeah, he was definitely happy about that. As for me, it was actually more stressful for me on Sunday.
Okay.
Because I assembled the motor, and it's different on Saturday when you just like, oh, I hope a wheel doesn't come off or something. But when everything you assembled, you kind of like biting your nails a little bit. And he didn't go out for practice because on the tumble on Saturday, he hurt his ribs pretty good. He said he had problems sleeping even.
Oh, really? Okay.
So he didn't even practice. I think I looked over there and I seen the bike sitting there. I'm like, what's wrong with the bike?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's wrong with the bike. I just didn't want to practice. I'm like, okay, well, yeah. Then he got those hole shots. And he was able to, the second moto when he held off Joel, that's not easy. Even any track, holding Joel off was pretty big.
Yeah, for sure. The racing was incredible in that class on Sunday. There's some of the best racing that we've seen in that class. That class always promotes great racing, but on Sunday it was some of the best racing that we've seen in that class in some time. And I want to touch on this. So Chad did come out and break the silence last week, stating that nobody should mistake his silence for anything but acting as a true professional. He stated that this is currently in the appeal process with the AMA's decision to disqualify him at 3 Palms, and he's hopeful that the appropriate and just decision will be made during that appeal. Now, we knew that this was going on. That obviously played a role in us not recording interview prior to this point. It just didn't feel right. But out of respect for Chad and all the parties involved, that's kind of where I came in on this. I just didn't want to draw any unneeded attention to what was going on, because you know how the internet or how these trolls or whoever just takes something and runs with it. And I didn't want to have any part in that specifically. And I said this to you before, but until the appeal is final, there's no finality to any of this. So it just didn't feel right to speak on it then. But I feel like, especially with you, I mean, you were at the center of this thing. I mean, you're part of it. So I feel like it was something natural to touch on here while we had you.
Yeah, I mean, most people in the industry already know the story, and there was no real secret to the gray areas of the rules.
Yep.
So
it was just
the way I feel about it right now is he was within the rules at 3 Palms, and he's still within the rules right now.
Right.
Now they did put the rules under a microscope, and they changed them a little bit after Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But we just make the same changes to the bike, and he was within the rules going into High Point.
Well, of course. I mean, so what I had been preaching then, right, is that there was these gray areas,
right?
But he would never, I mean, obviously he wouldn't knowingly, I mean, he was part of the formation of this class. So maybe the best thing to do here, so I'll have you take me through some of this, but Chad was part of the formation of the rule book for the class, like I said, from the very start. And I'll quote Chad here. So we had this is Chad now, and I quote, we had specifically raised the point that is now being questioned by the AMA in regard to the cam make and model. And I want to state this so that the listener, realizes what we're kind of talking about here. Back to Chad's words here. This is there is purposefully no year attached to the part so that you're able to use different year cams should you need to. Chad, I was racing a YFZ 450R on all YFZ 450R parts. I have the backing from a number of those involved of the rules formation and teardown committee that there should not have been a disqualification or issue. I have also had several riders, even some of those who have every reason to not be on my side, reach out in disbelief, but more importantly, reach out to be supportive. It means a lot to have the support of fans, riders, and people I look up to in the sport. He said that he'll have no further comment until the appeals process has been completed, but felt that it was important to get this message out there. So take us through that a little bit, because Michael, I simply put, I just don't believe that it's right. Now, why I wanted to touch on this was to fill in the listener, because I think it is important to touch on, like you said, it's the gray area of the rule. It was all Yamaha parts. There was nothing like now, like you said, the rule book is getting a little more specific, but as I stated on the previous episode, and I've stated to you already, that's why I thought there should have been some education to these racers or a warning shot to say, hey, like, this is how we're going to govern this now. And that's why I think so many of us hope that this appeal goes a certain way, but I feel like he's got a good case because the rules kind of changed after this, not prior to this.
Right. Yeah. They changed days after the race at Three Palms. And I'm pretty sure Yamaha sent Chad the cam that is in question. It is a genuine Yamaha part. It's not a special GYTR part or anything like that to give them max horsepower.
Right. Which I thought was important to touch on. That's why I wanted to do this.
Yeah, it was a bone stock cam. Now the year's not matching up, but the rules weren't written like that. They were written to where if Joe Blow wanted to come to the Nationals and race without having a $40,000 Yamaha, he can get one off the showroom floor, take the headlights off, throw some nerfs and handlebars on it, and go out there and race. Now, if he wads it up in the first turn of the first race, he can go around, ask someone for a set of arms, throw them on there and go. So, and I'm pretty sure nobody can run the newer clutch baskets because they'll scatter on you. Everyone has to run the earlier model, but the same YFZR.
That came out in that supplemental rule. I think that I saw come across my desk, right? That you can run like with a clutch setup or whatever, you can run that earlier year. That's legal. And, but some of this other stuff isn't. That's why I just don't feel like the way that this is being governed is right. It just doesn't feel right to me.
Well, I don't think there's any way they're going to write the rules and someone not be happy.
You're exactly right.
I just think I wish more people would race that class. I think it's one of the better classes out there. And if you're standing trackside, you can have a conversation with somebody while it's happening.
Hey, and like I said, the racing in that class is incredible. It really is.
Right. Yeah. Nobody's really going to check out. No one's just going to, just blow everyone else away because it's like NASCAR. They're all basically the same. There's small changes with them with different Nerf bar companies, or if someone wants taller handlebars or lower ones, they can do that.
Right. But that's, we compared it to spec racing, and that's kind of what it is. It's kind of, it's kind of like that. And the premise of the class is so great because you're exactly right. Somebody who maybe this is their first national event, they don't even know these riders, but they can look at how fast they're going, or, an educated person can look at how fast they're going on those stock machines and say, hey, I need one of them. That's my best move. Yeah. So,
it's probably my favorite class because you can actually sit there and enjoy it. Like I said, when you're at the Nationals and you're hearing those minis go by the weekend and they're piercing your ears,
Right.
And then you get to hear the stock class. It's like, you ever seen the Jetsons when they're flying around? That's what it sounds like. It's nice and really soothing to the ears.
It really is. I tell people all the time, if you have the right ground makeup, the right dirt, you'll hear the tires over the exhausts.
Yeah.
You'll hear the tire rotating. So just to tie that up, I mean, on the previous episode, I said that Chad Wienen wouldn't knowingly cheat. He volunteered his bike. He kind of pushed to make this happen. These gray areas that everyone's talking about is the issue, and they're shrinking. But if it became public knowledge that the riders were doing this, I think the powers that be, if they didn't approve of it, I still believe that a warning shot should have been fired. Like, hey, if you show up at High Point, it's going to be fair game to DQ you. But that's just my opinion. But I think that they should have been aware of the way that this was going to be governed. And I feel like that's a good way to tie it up. I just wanted to be able to touch on it while we had you, because again, I didn't want to draw any negative attention to it when this was kind of at its infancy. Now I feel like there's so much of this that's public knowledge that to hear from you that was at the center of this thing, to know kind of the backstory. I hope that people are a little more educated and can see that, again, hopefully this appeal goes the right way, but it just isn't right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're kind of just waiting on it now. Now, if they want you to run this, like they changed the rules, so so now we know exactly what we have to do, which we've already done, and hopefully they see it the same way that I feel, and you feel the same way, like what you just said.
Well, and if the rules would have read that way from the start, you guys would have done things this way from the start. I mean, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no way. You don't want to win like that. Chad doesn't even like winning when someone tips over and he gets a pass. He don't like passing people like that. Well, he said that on the podium at Daytona. Think about it.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So that's all we have to say about that. At the end of the day, again, we're talking about the gray area, and we're talking about stock Yamaha OEM parts. So I think that the way all this blew up was silly. I'm glad that there is a percentage of people out there that think it's as silly as you and I do. But that's about all I think that we need to say about that. So I want to, before we get you out of here, I want to thank you. I can't thank you enough for doing this, by the way. But kind of a interesting and cool dynamic for you, like we touched on at the onset here, working for Baldwin, wrenching for Chad on the weekend. You're fully entrenched in ATV motocross. What is that like? I think it's kind of cool. Like when we heard about Bryce Ford switching to Yamaha, and he said that they were, kind of working on some things with Chad at the start of their whole switch process. And at the time, it struck me as odd, but now it doesn't seem that crazy, because though it's two different premier race teams that we're talking about, everyone was more connected maybe than people realize. So just take me through what that dynamic is like, because knowing when I first knew about you a few years ago, being a Baldwin guy, and then when it was like, oh, he's wrenching for Chad on the weekend, it was surprising to me, right? So just not knowing any of the story behind the scenes. So what is that like?
Well, wait, which one do you want first? Do you want the Ford switch to Yamaha?
Whatever you just, it's your story.
Okay, well, we'll start with that one. So okay. Baldwin's always been a Honda guy, even from when he was racing three-wheelers. Yep. And we knew Fords wanted to try out some Yamahas because we were going to build race bikes for them, just so they could go test them. And Mark said, there's no way they're switching to Yamahas after we built this bike. And we built a TRX, especially for them to test. And and just like a Porsche 911, every year they just get a little bit better. And that's kind of how the Baldwin Hondas are. We just make small improvements every year or every build. We just, you find new stuff out that you can do to make them better, make them faster, make them lighter. Yep. And that's where we were at. There's no way he's switching. Okay. And then with the R&D that we've done to like Thomas Brown's motors, we were getting plenty of power out of them. And I think when Bryce got on that and just felt the power delivery, of the fuel injected Yamahas. I think that's what sold them on it. It wasn't how light they are, because they're not lighter than the Honda, but,
Right. Yep.
but the power is definitely, it's racing. You want power. So that's where that switch happened.
So we had said, I've said on this show up and down that Thomas's program took itself to another level, grabbed another gear, however you want to say it, when he was on the Baldwin motor program. Like he went from not getting a hole shot to being at the front of every hole shot. So that makes sense. Well,
the first motor we did for him was right before Daytona. Was that 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago?
Okay.
He said, I think you guys have some homework to do. And then Jaime from PDP Tuning came to our shop, and we were testing all day Friday, all day Saturday, and Sunday. So it was 3 days on a dyno with Thomas's bike to get everything we could get out of a Yamaha motor and still make it last for 2 motos.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I knew that the PP performance tuning guy there, Jamie, I knew that he was part of that. I knew that's, I guess, how I always said it when Thomas, had the Baldwin motor package and he had the PP performance tuning stuff. It took him to another level. And that was pretty impressive. So then tell me about, working for Baldwin, wrenching for Chad. Take me through some of that. That's gotta be pretty cool, because you're talking 2 legends, right? Baldwin's legendary, Chad's legendary. You're the right-hand man of kind of each of them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I was hoping we would have had another rider, because I wanted to go to the line.
Okay.
I was actually taking Mark Winchester to the line in the late, right before 2010. I actually left Baldwin Motorsports. I was working on bikes for a few years.
Okay.
But then I came back in like 2016, and I wanted my own rider, and we just, it just didn't happen. But it was at Georgia last year. I saw Chad washing his bike, and I was like, oh, the champ's washing his own bike. I went over there and I started talking to him. I was, well, where's your mechanic, Chad? Well, he said, I don't have one. I said, well, Chad, I don't have a rider, so,
sure. Yeah.
So he called Baldwin that next week and asked if I could help him out to see if it was a fit at Muddy Creek, I think it was. So that was the first race that I was wrenching for Chad. Okay. And, at first Chad was watching me like a hawk, and I was a nervous wreck.
Like you're under the gun. Yeah.
I should have been used to it, because Baldwin still watches me when we're at the shop. Sure. But it took a few rounds, but now Chad can, like, in between motos, I just tell him, go rest. I got it. And if there's a problem, I'll just go knock on the door and get him.
Well, I would assume that eventually, like, Chad had found some peace of mind, like you just said, because that would have been my train of thought, knowing you have to be meticulous if you work for Mark, right? So, that's probably why, he thought it was a good fit from the beginning after you mentioned it.
That and the amount of speed. Like, I've been doing this. I've been, paid to turn wrenches since at least 2000. And then when I met Mark, I was in high school. Helping my buddy with the Yamaha Banshee at the local track. So going from the fastest quad in the world in 98 on a Yamaha Banshee.
Sure. Yeah. Crazy. It's crazy. It's got to be fun to think back then, though, like where it all started, and then to think of, where you are now, how far you've come. Now you're wrenching for arguably the greatest, the greatest ATV racer of all time at the races. What a cool experience for an ATV enthusiast. Like that's the dream. There's so many people out there that probably think, man, how do you find, like, what path leads you to wrenching for Chad Wienen? And the answer is, it just happens.
I got lucky. It was just by chance. I went and started talking to him, and I told him I want to go to the line. So I didn't have a rider, and then the next thing you know, I'm going to the line with Chad Wienen, and I don't get I'm not used to it still. Like when I look through photos from the past weekend,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there I am right there. That's me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's really cool. And that's, it's funny because I never knew how all that went down when you touched on the Fords too, because sometimes when I look at Ford's bikes, it doesn't necessarily look like a Baldwin bike to me, you know, because I always think Honda, and then whether there's aspects of it or whatever, like I look at it and I'm like, well, it kind of looks like a Baldwin bike. It kind of looks like a Chad Wienen bike. So I didn't know if Chad had played a role in connecting any of the, I don't know, any of the dots, or gave anybody any cheat codes on anything. It just looked like, you know, Bryce's YFZ looked like kind of like a Chad bike with a Baldwin flare or whatever. So I wondered how that all came together.
Well, Bryce's first rolling chassis, Chad put it together for him.
Okay.
I think Bryce asked Chad to do it because he wanted to feel what it's like to ride a Chad Wienen bike. So
and Bryce
he put
told
that
us
together.
Bryce told us about that. That's why I would have never even known to ask you the question if he hadn't told us. So keep going.
Yeah, it had Fox shocks on it too, which I don't know if you've ever serviced a set of those, but in a seal kit, there's probably 40 seals in there that they're not. You can't whip them out real quick.
No, I'm not a Fox guy, so.
No, well, I kind of have to be now, but
right, yeah. But yeah, that was interesting to me when all that was going down. That was really interesting because you could see in the pictures that were posted that there was a Chad Wienen rolling chassis, and then there was, you know, totally different components, and it was cool to see, you know, that cool to see a race team doing things the right way, that way, trying to give their rider everything that they could by, you know, testing just about everything and finding the best combination for Bryce. You know, that's pretty special because not everybody can do that.
Well, Mark, we're never done testing. I mean, I think the Fords and Baldwin's going down to Pleasure Valley this weekend because they have a local race down there that they're going to do, and they're going to try some different things out. Okay. And like every round, I'm building a new set of shocks for those guys, just trying different lengths, different valving and doing all kinds of stuff. And what's hard is for me to keep like that under wraps, and then Chad's program, keeping that, all that stuff.
That was kind of some of my questions was like, you're right at the middle of this. So how do you keep it all straight? Like that's crazy to me, but it's gotta, I mean, you're the one guy that's, you know, kind of in between programs. Like, I think that's awesome.
Right. Yeah. I feel like I'm cheating on everybody when I'm going from this truck to that truck over to this one. But it's, you know, with everything, we're always making changes at Baldwin. Chad's always making changes too. So for me to remember one setup or something would be pointless anyway, because no matter what the track is or the weather, you can always make those fine adjustments. So it's always changing anyway. And then if anyone wants any insider information, any of the other pro riders listening, for Georgia, we're going to run 1 foot of ride height and 20 pounds in every tire.
There you go. You heard it here. Chad Wienen's top secret setup for Aonia Pass. But in all seriousness, so fun to hear all that because you're the only one that can tell that story. So cool. And with that, buddy, I think that'll pretty much do it for us. I just really appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing some knowledge with us. And you're so connected. You have so many stories to share. We'll have to do this again.
All right. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate your time. I think that this has been some invaluable insight that people can't really get anywhere else. So I really appreciate the shared knowledge. And like I said, I look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
You're the man. That's Michael Byrd, brought to you by our friends at SSI Decals. Head over to ssidecals.com today for all your needs when it comes to graphics, decals, vinyl, and so much more. Thanks again, pal. Good job in PA. Good luck in GA, and we'll see you down the road.
All right, we'll see you, Cody. Thanks.
As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Casey Greek, Jay Goebel, and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at Manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0 and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped.com by using code DiggingDeep20. The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is also sponsored by DP Brakes, a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology. DP has been dominating the ATV world for decades, supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. 2021's impressive lineup includes Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli of the Phoenix Racing Team, myself, Cody Jansen, and my back-to-back national championships, Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, Wesley Wolf, and many more, including all of the top 14 GNCC Series pros, led by the champ Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, and Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on the top of the podium. Available at www.dp-brakes.com, purchase at your local dealer, or message the show for their contact info today. What are you waiting for? Join the best ATV riders in the world on DP Brakes. 15 years into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back with us and continuing to make huge waves in the ATV world. For the second consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for some of the fastest riders on the planet. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of products available for all makes and models. Want to be just like Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli riding with Factory 43's industry-leading products? Head over to factory43atv.com today. All right, jumping back in here, it was Wienen, Hetrick, and Janusa on the podium in Pro Stock. Some great racing there. Love that class. And man, some great racing took place in the Pro-Am and Pro Sport classes as well. Zach Decker looks to be the class of the field in those classes. Also impressive is Aaron Salinas, who we're going to welcome to the show here momentarily. But Logan, I have to ask you about that gnarly wreck in Pro Sport Moto 2. I was right there, kind of on one side of the jump. You were right there on the other side. What'd you see? Because that was as gnarly of a wreck as I've seen in a long time.
It was insane. Yeah. So I was standing 10 feet from the landing, directly off of it, getting ready. Actually, Alex Gillette before the race is like, dude, I'm going to be throwing cool whips over it. Go over and film it. So I went there first.
Okay.
And yeah, so I was standing over there getting ready for moto, and the water truck rolled up. I couldn't tell if he was spraying water or not, but after looking at footage, it looks like he sprayed water on it. And the only reason I remember is because I got covered in dust. So I was hiding my camera gear when the water truck went by.
Oh, sure. Yep.
First lap, I have my camera set up, ready to start filming. As soon as Lance comes off, I know he's dying. He just rev limiter front end dropped right away. I put the camera down. So I didn't even film from that angle. Luckily, I had a second shooter up on the hill who was shooting it.
Sure.
So we have the footage of it. But I ran up against the fence because I knew it was going to be bad. He rev limiters, nose dives. Aaron right behind him. Rev limiters, nose dives into his bike. Brandon revs limiters, doesn't nosedive, but lands beside it. It's 360s. And then crazy thing, if you look at the footage and slow it down, who was it? Mitch Reynolds hits the triple, comes up a little short, but literally plows Walker's bike out of the way and keeps going. I don't know how he didn't wreck. And then everybody behind them checked up, but it's unbelievable how none of them were hurt. It's honestly insane.
I cannot freaking believe that somebody wasn't severely hurt in that wreck. So I was kind of on the other side, like kitty corner, but the opposite side of the jump. So I couldn't see the takeoff. I couldn't see nothing. And all I see is bikes. And then I'm thinking there's got to be bodies in the middle of the racetrack. Like from my view, I couldn't tell. And then just like you said, the gnarliest part of it all was, at least from my perspective there. And even when you look at the video, Mitch Reynolds blasting Lance's quad like a pinball. I cannot freaking believe that. So, so glad that everybody walked away unscathed, which is absolutely amazing. But
it could have been way worse. I
don't know how that happens. And I was watching your video. So glad you had another video.
Yeah, so did I.
Because I was actually thinking, I was like, how did Logan get a video? He's on the video. But anyways, so I was like, what the hell happened? Like nobody was having a hard time making the triple. So I was like, what the heck happened? Then I saw on the comments, maybe it was Bryce said something about a water truck or water or something. And then when I looked at the video, it almost looked like there was a line of saturation up, the kind of the tip of the face of that thing. And man, I think the hair on my arm stood up. Like, how does that happen? Like, I don't know. Cause then you think of it as a racer, just, I'm sure you did too. And you go into there, you come off that roller halfway up that hill. Like you're already committed. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. And then on top of it, like that's a blind jump. So everybody behind, they don't know what's coming. They don't know Lance is down. They don't know Aaron's down. They don't know Brandon O'Neill's, 360ing and all these things. Like, it's just, that is so hairy to me. And just unreal. I cannot believe that everybody walked away. It was unreal.
I hate talking about it because it's obviously a huge mistake that we never want to deal with again. Mm-hmm. But the water was a sketchy problem all weekend. I saw people going down the hills backwards because they spun out going up. Like it was sketchy, and this was worst case scenario of what could happen. But thankfully, everybody walked away safe.
Absolutely. So me, how we handle this stuff on the show. I'm not saying this to be negative, but it was a talking point. Like, I had countless people talking to me about water. I had people saying you have pull around here. Talk to them about the water. I'm like, well, that's not my place. But
I was Harv texted me. I think it was Monday night. He's like, what do you know? I'm like, this is my experience. And I sent him a slow motion of the video. I'm like, it looks like they watered it, but that's not my call. You make the decision.
Yep. Yeah.
But
unreal.
Yeah. The other thing that I got so much criticism on the video is the flaggers. They're saying a lot of people are yelling at me. They're like, why isn't that photographer up there trying to wave? I'm like, you weren't there. I could have I could have done anything and they wouldn't have seen me. It was a completely blind jump. And where the flagger was, the video I posted, which I'm mad I posted it the way I did, I cut it after Aaron went past the flagger. So you can't see where the flagger's at. The flagger was in the best spot he could have been on the track. It just so happened that it was the first lap. They were all so close, and top four were already past the flagger when Lance was wrecking. So there's nothing they could have done.
So the flagger was on like the roller part, right?
He was on. Yeah, exactly. That's the best spot he could have been in.
That's the best spot he could have been in. And the thing about that jump, like that's as blind of a jump as there is, that's LaRocco's leap blind, there's You have no idea. So you're relying on the flaggers. The flaggers are doing their best job. You got to remember that all the riders were right on top of each other. Like Aaron was right behind Lance and so on and so forth as you go down the line with Brandon O'Neill and Mitch Reynolds and all these guys. They were right on top of each other. So, and then when you talk about it's the pro sport class, so there's very few classes that are a higher level than them. There's a trust, like you all trust each other that nobody's going to do anything too sketchy.
Exactly.
Then you add, a ulterior factor. You got another factor, and that could be the water that you're talking about. And that changes everything. But the flaggers didn't do anything wrong. The riders didn't do anything wrong, and not to draw any attention to it, but there was probably another factor there that kind of played a role. Thankfully, for all the listeners out there, the main thing that matters is that everybody walked away okay. Everybody got away okay. That could have been so gnarly, and everybody walked away. So we just got to count our blessings with that and move on.
Yeah, I was talking to Aaron an hour after that happened, and he was very close to being seriously injured. So I literally texted him. I think it was Sunday night because he did great in Pro-Am. He just lost the chain in the second race, so he didn't race. And I texted him, I was like, "Dude, bummed about the chain, but thankfully you're alive. Like I don't care how bad, like the mistakes you did, you're alive because this weekend was insane." Like,
absolutely. So we saw Aaron on the video. You just talked about him. He went for a gnarly ride there. Let's welcome him on to talk about the wreck and the ups and downs of his weekend, just like you referenced. All right, guys, excited to talk to this next guest, brought to you by Bronco ATV and UTV components, electrical components, engine internals like rods and cylinders, suspension parts, bearing kits, and more. Bronco is your source for replacement hard parts and accessories. Visit your local dealer and ask for Bronco ATV and UTV components, or visit them online at broncoatv.com. Say hello to first-time guest, Aaron Salinas. What's up, man? Thanks for being here. Stoked to talk about a up and down weekend at High Point for you.
Oh yeah, how's it going? I'm excited.
I feel like just like I said to you before we hit record on this thing, I feel like you're the perfect guy to talk to. You were right in the mix on everything, good and bad, I feel like. And you're one of the key players here in 2021 in Pro-Am and Pro Sport. And the crazy part to me, Aaron, is how young these classes are right now. I mean, it seems like nearly the entire class is teenagers. You're basically only a year removed from 250s, college boy last year, and now you're a contender in Pro-Am. And I think for most guys, or I think of most of you guys as 250 riders yet, but that's really not the case anymore. And I guess that's kind of a testament to how fast the young group of riders that you've been racing for so long. It's like you were racing in 250s, then you were racing in A class, and now already you're racing in Pro-Am. It's kind of the same group of guys. It's a testament to how fast you're all going, I feel like.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Me, Zach, Max is now pro, but I raced, but he was always on another level, but we've been racing since, 85s, like going back that far. So, and we just all came up through the ranks together. So, it's been pretty crazy, but it's fun. We're all friends and stuff. So we have some good battles too. So.
Yeah. So what is it like? And I've been there, but what is it like for you? Now you're kind of racing some of the same guys or whatever, but now it's in the Pro-Am class. Like, I feel like it's a little bit different just because, for all kids, right? Like all of us, when you're growing up, like you look at Pro-Am as the lights class, if you compare it to motocross stuff. So it's a big deal. So is there like more clout or whatever, or is there more nerves or anything because it's Pro-Am, or is it just normal because it's kind of some of the same guys?
There's definitely, I feel like it's different for sure. Like more, like, it's always been competitive, but I feel like it's like, you're friends, but you can still, push it in there. So it's nothing too friendly for sure.
Mm-hmm.
More competitive, I guess you could say, and aggressive.
Yeah, there's more on the line too, right?
Yeah.
Just a little more comes along with the Pro-Am stuff. How old are you, pal?
I'm 18, just turned 18.
Okay. Yeah. I figured you had to be 17 or 18. Like I said, I mean, that whole class just seems so young right now, and it's crazy. And it's awesome for the health of the sport, right? There's so much young talent. Obviously you're part of that. So that's pretty special. So talking about High Point, the final results don't really tell the story for you, because you were in contention for overalls in both classes. Really, you slayed the first moto, second in pro sport, and you won your first ever pro-am moto. Take me through the emotions of winning that pro-am moto. I see the view, and then I saw some pictures of it, of like your two arms in the air. I remember that feeling of winning my first pro-am moto, and I never got an overall. So hopefully I have a feeling that that's not going to be the case for you, but that's pretty special, pretty freaking special feeling, I think, especially to do it so early on, like you are. It's the realization of a childhood dream, I feel like. So take me through kind of that feeling and the emotion when you got that win there.
As you know, Saturday, the wreck happened and stuff like that. So, it honestly meant a lot more, especially after that happened.
Yeah.
And just to go out there, my body was beat, from before. So
right.
It was just, and then the first win feeling of Pro-Am, it was, and it all was just, it was just there. All the emotions were let out.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you had to, you led that moto, but you had to race hard to keep that win, I feel like. So, and then like the harder it is, it's almost like the more you appreciate it, I feel like. So that's kind of what you're touching on, where kind of had some hurdles to overcome or whatever. And then it makes it that much more special.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. That was like one of the most memorable moments for sure for me.
It wasn't an overall, but it had to be like, kind of like a highlight of your career. I would think that was the biggest moto win you've ever had, probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So the first motos were awesome, both of them for you. And then the second motos were kind of disastrous. Like both of them were not good. So I believe I read that you bent your chain guard and it derailed your chain in the Pro-Am second moto. Is that right?
First lap. So over the triple, I don't know what that triple had something against me. So
obviously,
over that triple, there's that left-hander and there was a rut, and I guess that's what I hit, and it bent my chain guard, and my chain came off right at the finish line, first lap.
Oh, geez. So, you were in position to win that overall too.
All I had to do was get second. So, and I was right where I needed to be.
Right. So yeah, that's obviously a heartbreaker there, because I thought to myself as I'm doing the math, kind of watching that first moto, I'm like, Aaron's going to have a chance to win the second moto, obviously, just the way it played out. So, or win the overall, I should say. That's just, had a gut feeling there. So, bummed to see it go down like that. What are you running for a chain guide?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Okay. So I had, years ago, I had a pro mechanic ask us why we were running a certain chain guard or chain guide. And I switched to the Foreworks one because it's carbon fiber and it's able to give a little bit and it can't bend like the metal one. So maybe that's
something for sure I need to
look
into for sure.
I'm telling you, between that race and the next race, I had all the carbon fiber ones on all my bikes. Cause I don't
think that'll ever happen again.
Never again. Literally, you learn the hard way. So, okay, so we touched on it a little bit. The main topic of conversation, something that kind of sparked this conversation here, I feel like, is the gnarly wreck that everyone has seen by now, caught by our friends at Tremellen Media House. Tell me about that huge wreck on the opening lap of Pro Sport Moto 2.
Okay, so really, first moto, came out second. I felt the best I felt all year.
Okay.
So coming into the second moto, I was so confident, ready to do it. Got a good start, came out second. Lance Walker's right in front of me. We go up so they watered down the hill.
Okay.
They watered it going down the hill, but not up the hill.
Okay.
But then they watered the face. So we jump, and it's dry, of course. And then once we hit the face, that thing was wide open. So
sure. Yeah.
Lance hit it, and I just saw him. I'm already committed. I'm right behind him, of course.
Obviously, yeah.
So, it's wide open. So we're going, and I just see, as I'm spinning, as my tires are spinning, I see him nose. I'm like, I'm committed. I can't do, like, there's nothing I can do. Either I make the jump or I just, at that point, I'm like, okay, I just throttle it out. And he nosedives and straight into the landing of the face. And he flips, and as soon as I let off the face, I knew it was going to be bad. And I'm like, okay, all I remember is, do I bail? Do I not? Do I bail? I mean, and I've watched the video so many times. I've watched it an insane amount of times, and you could see my like knees like go, like if I'm about to jump, and then I stay on, and then like last minute my hands, I just let go, and I'm like, okay, whatever happens.
Yep.
And I mean, so that happened, and honestly, I didn't even know I got slung around like that. I did not know that until I watched
so fast. Yeah.
Oh, it happened so fast. So that happened. I flip, I guess, and all I hear is just, even if you listen to the video, you can hear panic rev.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So think about that. Think about that times 1,000.
So I was like kind of standing in that corner, kind of like if you were going down to staging. So I'm like kind of kitty corner from the jump, but I can see you guys land, and I hear panic rev, and then I hear I hear a gasp and everything, and I see a bike flipping, and it was Lance. Like I see the quad land, like laying upside down on the face, and then just bike after bike after bike coming. And it was, I mean, all I could think of is that there's just bodies down and there's people's landing this triple. Like that's what it felt like from my vantage point, because I couldn't see all that. Obviously we see on the video, the Tremellen video, that everybody like honestly got out like pretty okay. Like you were kind of talking about. So I didn't know, I was like, what the hell happened? Because nobody was having a hard time hitting the triple. Right. So I'm like, how does that happen? And then I'm like looking at the comments on the video, because I still didn't know. And I read that they had watered the face. And then when I went back and watched the video, like you can see, just like you said, like you guys go up over that, kind of single roller thing, and it's not even wet there. Like it's at like the actual incline of the takeoff. And I would have, like everybody would have done exactly what you guys did. So there's no fault of you guys. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I mean, obviously it was a mistake. Like I'm not here to bash on anybody, but I just, that cannot happen ever. So, and then the other thing is like touching on your dismount, and I have never purposely bailed. In my entire life of riding, I've never purposely bailed, but the way you did it, like maybe it was that indecision, maybe that was the blessing, but you dismounted, like, I feel like, and you flipped or whatever, like you went for a wild ride, but I feel like it couldn't have been any better. Like it worked out where you didn't get smashed by anything. You didn't, the quad didn't tackle you. Like you didn't, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like it was kind of like the meant to be that way.
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, like lucky, like
yeah.
Talk about bad luck and then talk about lucky. So, I mean, it all evens out,
Right.
But yeah, like, yeah, the face was, I mean, you could just see. And I mean, no matter what, who was in front, I mean, if I was in front, Zach,
it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. Yeah.
Thing was happen. I mean, we all went on the same line that Lance did. So, I mean, just, it was, I mean, it was
my gosh.
crazy.
Yeah. So, and like you said, the sound of all the rev limiters, like you said on the video, it's hairy. Like that is, it's like making the hair on my arm stand up. It's hairy. And so like you said, I mean, Lance was already down, you go cartwheeling, Brandon O'Neill does this crazy, like 360 thing. That was as crazy as anything. I feel like Mitch Reynolds goes for a crazy ride, blasting what I think was Lance's quad. Like he went for as wild a ride as anybody. Even though like he didn't fall off. I mean, that was crazy, because he was flying when he hit that.
I don't know how he made the jump. I went up to it. I'm like, how'd you make the jump? And he's like, I hit it on the right side. And I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I don't know. It's unreal. And then you kind of wonder, like, or I guess, you wonder like why some people are afraid of blind jumps. And this is exactly why, like, this is that person's biggest fear, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, it all happened. So like, we're all back to back. It's first lap. So, I mean,
Mhm.
there's nothing you could do.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, it could have been anybody. But it's wild that everybody kind of got out like pretty unscathed. Your dad, I crossed paths with your dad after the moto, and he was trying to find Lance did you get an update on how was he okay?
So yeah, he was okay. I think his elbow was pretty bruised up.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Looked
but,
like
we all came out pretty, I mean, could have been way worse than what it was. I mean,
yeah.
wow.
That's a blessing for sure. It just looked like the scary part for me at first was it looked like he was down, like on his hands and knees in the middle of the track. And thankfully, like obviously that could have been bad. Thankfully, everybody was able to get out of there pretty okay. And like I said, I mean, we're obviously glad you're okay. Your starting point here in these fast ass classes is super impressive, and presumably you're only going to get better. So I'm glad that you were able to get through that whole crazy situation. Obviously, then we saw some of the highest of highs on Sunday. So, I mean, you should be able to put this obviously all to bed. It seemed like you already had on Sunday, and it's going to be really fun to see how this 2021 season plays out for you. Because like I said, you're killing it now, and to have your starting point in these classes be so high, you're only going to get better. I feel like that's got to have you excited, and it's fun just as fans or whatever to follow, having you on such a great jumping off point. I think it's going to be really exciting going forward.
Oh yeah. And it's cool too to see all the 250 guys coming up. I mean, there's going to be a lot. I mean, there's 30 riders every race. So, I mean, I think it'll be pretty sweet, like to see,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone jump up,
Yeah, I mean, going forward, like in those, we've had Casey on the show talking about that the 250 class to him is like a mini pro class. So, I mean, going forward, look ahead 2, 3, 4 years. Hopefully, like you guys are doing now, you young riders at these, these fast classes. I think that this is something that we can kind of be, expect. Like you were kind of, and obviously the 250 class has been around for a little while, but when you talk about the Bryce Fords and now you and Max and these riders that have, raced the 250s, you guys have kind of had the 250 like your whole career. Prior to that, the 250 wasn't necessarily a thing. I think you're kind of seeing, the trickle down effect of you guys being on like 450 quality bikes, fast bikes, pro level bikes, but 250s, the trickle down effect of like how far ahead you are of riders back in the day, because Brandon Hoag was really, really good right when he got on a 450, but he was coming from a 300 EX. Like he was one of the last holdovers of that. That was more my generation. Jeffrey Rastrelli. Joel Hetrick was on a Z400. Like those guys were all good right away. Like they're the 1%, but you guys being on such great bikes to start with, I think you're seeing, that you're able to make a pretty seamless transition into the top 450 classes. And I think that sets you up for success long-term.
Oh yeah. Those bikes are, they're almost like a 450.
They are power to weight ratio, you're not giving up anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's crazy to see. And even the like the 50s, the numbers I feel like are insane. So I'd love to see that.
It's awesome. All those youth classes are big. So I love to see that. And it seems like people are sticking around because last year, the 90 classes were huge. Now the 250 classes are huge. And hopefully that just continues to kind of refill these classes as the sport hopefully grows. So before we get out of here, I want to talk about your buddy Max Lindquist. I know you guys are close. 3 consecutive 4th overall finishes to start his pro career, which is unbelievable. Is this what you expected out of him?
Yes, honestly, yep.
It is.
And he actually came to Dallas for a little bit before the 3 Palms race, and we trained together and stuff. But
okay.
I talked to him twice, 3 times a week, so I knew what he was doing. He works hard, so. It's pretty sweet to see him up there and like it. Yeah. And like you said, we're pretty close. So
yeah. I knew you were.
I knew he'd do good though.
I knew you guys were tight. So I wanted to get your opinion. But it's crazy how after just like, it took 2 races or whatever. And he already it's like you see him like battling with those guys. He's around Wesley Wolf and Nick Janusa and Jeffrey Rastrelli and these really, really, really good guys, Brandon Hoag. And it's like nothing special. It's like, that's what we expect from him now. It's crazy. That's the part to try to wrap your head around, like where he is after, you know, so little time. It's just, that's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. He's just he's one of the guys, like he's one of those guys to,
yeah,
watch, you know,
like, it's unreal to me.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. His progress, like just from pro-am to pro, and to do that, like to step up that big, like that's how I want to do it, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, kind of following your buddy's footsteps. Like he's kind of paved the way, like he's shown you how to do it. And especially when you have somebody in your corner that's done that. I mean, I would imagine going forward, he'll be able to give you some tips when that time comes for you, because you're not going to be far off kind of doing what he's doing, you know, going forward. I assume in the next year or two, you're going to be in that class too, and going to be exciting stuff.
Oh yeah, it should be sick.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's awesome, pal. Well, I want to congratulate you, obviously, on some awesome riding. I mean, winning some of these motos and being right up at the front of these classes is pretty special. I want to thank you for the conversation. And if you keep slaying it, man, I'm sure you're going to be back right here on Digging Deep before you know it.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean, this is awesome.
And it was cool for me. Like I said, I mean, you were ups and downs, you know, this weekend, you were in the middle of it all, but to see some of the emotion from the Pro-Am win, and to be able to talk through that craziness that happened on Saturday evening, all that stuff. You were the perfect guy. And honestly, I've heard nothing but good things of you, about you over the last handful of years, but man, I'm a fan. I just like respectful, you know, I don't want to call you a kid, but a clean cut, respectful person like you are. It seems like you're wise beyond your years, and that's going to be, that's going to pay off big time going forward. I feel like you'll be a fan favorite for a lot of people, and also success follows people, kind of built how you are. I don't know how else to say it. So you've made a fan of me, and excited to see all the great things that are ahead for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Like, that's awesome coming from you. So
awesome, man. Awesome, man. Well, it's been a pleasure. That's Aaron Salinas, a rider to keep your eye on here in 2021 and beyond, brought to you by Bronco ATV and UTV Components. See you soon, mate. Thanks again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC has been supplying riders with aftermarket components from the industry's top brands for over a decade. With over 80,000 products in stock for your ATVs, UTVs, metric and HD motorcycles, dirt bikes, and snowmobiles, Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC can tend to all your power sports needs, from hard parts to riding gear. Bikes, Trikes, and Quads also offers hard-to-find used parts for your vintage dirt bike, ATV, three-wheeler, or snowmobile. Use discount code ATVMX at www.btqllc.com for 10% off of orders of $100 or more. We're grateful to have Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC digging deep with us. Thank you, BTQ LLC. We are proud to be partnered with Gripped Gloves. Gripped is an ATV rider owned and operated brand with the rider in mind and the goal of keeping costs affordable. The Michigan-based family operation recognizes riders' desire to showcase their identity. Owner David Payne's love for eccentric colorways and crazy patterns shows in his product, something not often found in the work of big manufacturers. Here to push stereotypes and limitations, Grip's drive is to produce a glove with cool colors and designs that won't break the bank. With comfort and quality as key motivators, the family affair is constantly working on the next more innovative and improved glove. Get a grip on life, join the Gripped movement, because no one wants a bland glove. Check them out today at grippedgloves.com. That's GRIPT gloves.com, and use discount code DIGGINGDEEP10 to save at checkout. Just like the sport of ATV motocross as a whole, our Digging Deep community is brought together by the love for racing that we all share. Our sport is compiled of many great people, and leading that charge is the Launderville family at Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. This racing-owned family business is a steel and concrete supplier serving the entire United States. Launderville Steel is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products, headlined by the 4130 chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for ATVs and UTVs, off-road truck racing, late model dirt and pro tractor pulling series, drag racing, and more. Launderville Steel loves their racing just as much as we do, but don't forget about their concrete division as well. With over 25 years of experience, the Concrete Division can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. Their central Midwest location enables LSE to easily serve customers across the United States. For a quote, additional info, answers to more of your questions, or to talk a little racing, head over to laundryvillesteel.com or give them a call today. We are proud to be partnered with yet another racer-owned company. Thank you, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show. All right, winding down here, want to touch on a few more subjects to finish things off, starting with Andrea Berger. She grabbed the win in the WMX class. Josh Klein from PH3 Photos, and I have publicly been going back and forth a little bit because I have Andrea and he has Shaw as his title pick. I'm on top for now, probably going to stay there. But who do you have, Logan, as your top female ATV racer, Berger or Shaw? Who would you pick if you had to pick today?
I have Berger. She's been so dominant in years past. And I mean, not to be biased, but I mean, River in my family has supported Andrea a ton. She supported me with photos, but that's besides the point. Andrea has been dominant in the past. And I mean, she definitely had competition for her at Texas. I was surprised how well Niam rode, but I'm expecting Andrea's experience in the class to just outperform.
So Shaw, I want to give her credit. Like, this is nothing against her by any means. Like, she's flying. Like, she definitely grabbed some more gears. Definitely taking her program to another level. Andrea, I mean, I have a connection to Andrea because she's from where I'm from, just down the road. I mean, her dad's my dad's age, but I grew up racing her dad, at local races and stuff. And so now I watch Andrea and I see her dad in Andrea. Like, she's savvy and she's smart and she's calculated and all these things. So I feel like a rider like that is just hard to bet against. So obviously, in my heart, I'm pulling for Andrea, but I just, like we talked about with some other racers in the other classes, her program and all of her qualities, her attributes, just have a hard time picking against her. I really do. And then as soon as somebody's like, calling you out, like, I'm going to double down and cheer for Andrea that much harder,
It's just awesome to see like really good competition in this class again.
Agreed.
There's a few years where it was just, nobody crazy fast, besides when was it? I don't even remember. It was a long time ago where there was solid competition, and it's cool to see it back in the class.
10 years since we saw, really,
exactly.
So that was really cool. I do. And I've said this before on the show, but I think the birth of the new women's class, that women's 15 plus class, should help that WMX class going forward. I think that'll be a really good feeder class and a good kind of middle ground from the schoolgirl classes, kind of to the WMX class. So I think that'll be really good going forward. One last guy I want to touch on, and when you perform like he did at High Point, we have no choice but to cover him. Another Wisconsin rider, JJ Launderville, won 3 overalls at High Point, 450A, Production A, and Production Stock AB. This kid is fresh off of 250s, where he won 3 titles in 2020. He was also named Youth Rider of the Year. We awarded him our first ever Digging Deep Rising Star Award. Logan, JJ Launderville is a star in the making. This kid is blowing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, he almost seemed like he came out of nowhere. Like last year, he did good in 250s, but I never would have guessed he'd be standing on top of all 3 of the classes in, all A classes this year from how he rode last year. It just seemed like he matured so much and progressed so much in the off season. Mm-hmm. And I was grateful enough to go to his house. I think it was last weekend, to shoot with him personally and see his gym and their whole facility there. And it definitely shows how he's put together such a solid program.
So last year is when he really came out of nowhere for me. So I go way back with those guys. Launderville Steel was title sponsor of my pro program at one point. So I go way back with those guys. So I have pictures of JJ and I at their house there at the house when track and everything was nothing like it is now. But he's just a little guy. Now I'm the little guy. He's But I mean, that had to have been 2014, 15, something like that. So it's been a while. But yeah, to see where he's come, he came off he was a good rider, always been a good rider. But last year he became this dominant force. And so he wins all those 250 titles. And now, just like you said, so he came out of nowhere for me last year. Now in the A classes, he just looks like that same rider. Like, yeah, I expect to win all these races. When I line up, I'm planning to win. And even when you listen to JJ talk, I mean, nobody believes in himself more than JJ, not in an arrogant way by any means. He's just a believer. And that's, I think, one of the things that makes him so dangerous, like he's got a self-belief and he's not going to be stopped. He's gnarly. And I can't believe, he's part of this group of young, fast riders. That's the future of the sport. And you won't find a better young man, and the Launderville family is incredible. And not to mention they support Digging Deep, which, I'm eternally grateful for, but he's so deserving. He's He's such a great kid. And then the racer he's become, it's amazing. I don't even know what to say. It's incredible. He's killing it.
Yeah, his composure and confidence really surprised me when I did an interview with him. Like last time I remember having like a conversation with him, he was like quiet, he was kind of kept to himself. And when I was asking him the questions, like he was giving really good, like deep, like confident answers. And it showed that like he's going to be the top guy. And in his head, he is the top. Like he's showing it in results, but like before he even got to the track, he knew. Mm-hmm. And that just shows just how confident, how solid his program is. And that's even besides or beyond the fact that, the family is great. The program's obviously proven with Joel on the Yamaha, and he has Leon as a mechanic to keep it lighthearted and fun as he's doing everything.
Yeah. I've said this before, not in a public setting, but I've said this before, that JJ has used this sport to come out of his shell. Just like you said, the conversations, the deep thought, the deep thinking and the way he's articulating all these things, that wasn't JJ a number of years ago. And I truly believe that he's used, ATV motocross, ATV racing, all of this, it's kind of prompted him to come out of his shell. And like I said, he's always been an amazing kid. Like I said, you couldn't imagine finding a better young man, but man, what the sport has done for him, I truly believe, like he's without ATV motocross, without ATV racing, I don't know if he would be who he is today and that's the case with so many of us, but man, he's really come out of a shell, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with going forward. Like I don't see this changing anytime soon with how dominant he's looking. He's going to be a dominant force going forward all the way up to the top.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So one last thing before we let you go, buddy. I haven't gotten a chance to touch on our Impact Solutions Impact Moment yet, where we highlight something good and positive that's happening or happened in ATV motocross. And kind of similar, I guess not far off from what I was talking about with JJ. But at High Point, I found myself conversing with the staging guy down at the starting gate on Saturday night. Shorty, I think was his name. Great guy. And, our conversation found its way to talking about the stereotypical mini dads and, how they can, unfairly be harsh to their young riders. But instead of, kind of talking about that, I want to take a second to showcase a young rider and her family that are doing things the right way, kind of like we just talked about with the Laundervilles, doing things the right way. They represent so much good, everything that's right about ATV motocross. And the same goes for this next rider, a rider, I think a rider you've shot for in the past or maybe shoot for now, Kayla Kendrick. Kayla comes from a family where both of her brothers race competitively in some of the fastest amateur classes, winning titles, extremely competitive. And they've since moved on. Devin is now going to school and Larry's in the military, yet Tim, their father, still travels all over the country for Kayla to do her thing. And to me, that's the coolest thing, to the point that, it's like moved me to tears over the past year plus of thinking about this, because Kayla just graduated to the new women's 15 plus class, and Kayla isn't going to win. She finished 9th at High Point, but she's out there doing her best. She's trying her hardest. She's, enjoying her time on the ATV, enjoying her time with her friends at the track. And then her dad is enjoying traveling the country with his daughter, doing what she loves. We're all competitive. It's a competitive sport, but I think that it's important that people know, we should never let the competitiveness suck the fun out of it for you or your rider or the rest of your family. Kayla loves ATV motocross, and Kayla's love for ATV motocross is what it's all about, really. That's kind of why I wanted to touch on this. It's so basic, but it's so basic that I feel like it almost needs to be showcased. And I wish that there was more dynamics out there like this, like the dynamic with Kayla's family, because it's all about having fun. It's all about doing your best. And I just wish there was a little more of that at times. So if you're on the way to the track right now, so many of you listen to our show as you're on the way to the racetrack, maybe think about having focus on having some fun, because Logan, most of us are at our best when we're having fun. That's when we're most successful. I'm a big believer in positive reinforcement. We touched on this a little bit with Brandon earlier. Let's build each other up. That's how we get the best out of one another. That's what our sport is all about. And that's what the Impact Solutions Impact Moment is all about. So I just wanted to be able to touch on that. We all see things maybe at the racetrack that you don't want to see, and you never want somebody to be robbed of the fun and the joy and the love that they have for the sport. So, and like I said, I feel like the more positive, the more fun that a person can have, that's how you're going to be more successful, whether that's, saying it to yourself, being positive for yourself, or, maybe for your younger rider or whatever. The more positive, the more uplifting, the more, happy little bubble you can create. I feel like that's the best, that's the way to get the best out of somebody, whether it's racing, whether it's at a job, whether it's in a relationship, whatever it is. That's kind of probably this is probably the most meaningful Impact Solutions Impact Moment that we've had, because I feel like that's a message that can't be said enough. I'll let you hop in there.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Kendricks, ever since I've been in ATV motocross, I've been racing against Devin, and I don't think I told anybody outside of my immediate family, but I always told them, like, when I can, I want to sponsor them. It's just good energy. They were always there. They were always racing. They were competitive, but they weren't beating each other up. And I'm actually really grateful that now I just have the opportunity to work with them by giving them photos. And it's just so cool to see just such an awesome family, literally just putting it all on the line, not even to get results, just to go out there and have fun and spend time together as a family.
And I guess I didn't even touch on that, but yeah, I mean, they're grassroots. They're, they've had tents, they sleep in their trailer. They just, but they love it. They love it just as much as anybody. And then, like I said, and I'm telling you, I've shed tears about this, thinking about that. This is what Kayla loves to do. And Tim brings her all over the country to do her thing, when there used to be 3 riders, right? And then they were really competitive. So for some people, maybe it's harder to justify, driving all over the country, doing what we all love to do, but it can be expensive to drive all over the country. And the part that makes me emotional is it didn't matter when Devin was winning the B class, or if Kayla's getting 9th in the new women's 15 plus class, it didn't matter to Tim. it was like, this is what we love to do. Kayla is such a great young lady. Like, she deserves the opportunity. Kind of like I was saying with JJ too, great kids. Feel like it's kind of a great lesson, great thing to showcase. Because when you do the right thing, you're a good kid, you're respectful, all those things, you deserve that opportunity. And the part that I wanted to share was just think that's so cool. Doesn't matter how you do, as long as you're having fun, as long as you're trying hard. That's really all that matters. Logan, with that, let's call it a wrap. I think that's a great way to obviously end the episode and the segment, and everything on a positive note. I can't thank you enough for the great conversation. I appreciate your input so much. And I guess I have to ask you before I let you out of here, what can we expect from this next installment of your groundbreaking video series? I know I'm not the only one over here awaiting the next one to drop. I love those things.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a lot of people are liking them. I'm getting a lot of compliments on them. Mm-hmm. What to expect? The next one is Nick Janusa and JJ Laundreville. I already have all the interviews. I have all the footage. Just a matter of I haven't even started. I haven't looked at any of the footage yet. I've been super busy. So hopefully I'll have it out in a week's time, right before Georgia. That's the goal, but who knows? I got a lot on my plate right now. But
so how long does it take you to piece those things together?
The first one, I think it took 40 hours because it was like super new. There's so much that goes into creating a whole series from scratch. Now this is the fifth one, I think, maybe fourth one. So there's kind of a bit more strategy when I go into it. I know what to look for. I know how to organize everything. Sure. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm not starting from scratch. So I'd say, 15, 20, 25 hours, somewhere in that ballpark, not including the days I'm shooting, the days I'm filming, the full day that I went to Janusa's, the full Wisconsin trip to go to JJ's. So there's a lot of time, a lot of money and energy that goes into this.
Awesome. Well, obviously, like I said, me included, but so many of us anxiously await for those. And I can't thank you enough for including our Digging Deep audio in them. It's truly an honor for us to be a small, but to be a part of it. It puts a huge grin on my face every time I'm watching this video. That's so cool, because our sport doesn't have stuff like that. It's kind of more behind the scenes stuff. And then to hear our audio kind of narrating the story. I love it. I love it. So I'm grateful for kind of the opportunity. And like I've told you in person, I'll say it now again, any way that I can ever help. I'm always just a phone call or a text away.
Yeah. I literally wouldn't be able to build the story I am without your audio. So I'm so grateful that you're doing this as well.
Awesome, man. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for being a part of this. It's always so much fun. It's great to have another person to kind of look at everything and see what's going on at the races. So I love the perspective, and just grateful to have you here.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to add that I'm super excited about, and I think will help grow the sport is at High Point. It went okay, but we did a pro class live stream. It was very last minute. We didn't get approval to do it until Friday evening. So I was going ahead with it, but I was just I was waiting. I didn't wrap everything up until literally midnight Friday night to go ahead and do it Saturday. So hopefully this race, I got different camera gear ordered, different way we're going to approach it. Basically won't be behind fans, better audio, better camera for the whole program. Awesome. So it's just a matter of having phone service. But as long as everything goes smoothly, we'll be live streaming every single pro race for the rest of the season.
Awesome. Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is this something that we can expect going forward? So that's great for anybody that can't be at the races. It's going to be a way to reliably be able to tune into these things. So that's really exciting. On behalf of all ATV motocross fans, we can't thank you enough for doing that, but that's going to be really exciting. So what's the best way to kind of find that? Should we just monitor the social media pages? Should we, is the easiest way to find it on your YouTube channel? Tell us what's the best way to find that?
Yeah, we didn't do a good job of promoting it at High Point because I couldn't share about it till Saturday morning. So literally even Joel and Chad didn't know about it. They both texted me like, dude, why didn't you let me know? I was like, well, I didn't even know. So yeah, I'm sure heading into Georgia, as long as everything goes smoothly phone service wise, we'll be promoting the crap out of it on all of our social media, and it'll be live on our YouTube channel.
Oh, I mean, credit to me for sharing it at
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
No, when I saw
it was so last minute.
No, I know. I'm obviously joking. When I saw that pop up, really excited, because up till this point, when you're not at the races, you got to hope that somebody's like Instagram live feeding it or whatever. So to see that this is going to be something that people can expect and at the races going forward, that's a great thing. And also, for people to know that that's where you can go to follow the live races, to see the video. I feel like that's just going to gain more and more momentum. So big asset, great asset for the sport you are. So I appreciate all you're doing there. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it.
Awesome, man. Well, let's tie this thing up. I'll let you get out of here on that note. Just want to thank you one more time for joining us, and until next time.
Yeah, till next time.
Awesome, man. Keep up the great work. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you at a race real soon.
See ya.
Thanks, pal. What an episode. Are you ready to go back racing this weekend or what? Major thanks to tonight's guests, Brandon Hoag, Michael Byrd, Aaron Salinas, and Logan Tremellen. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple. Thanks to our sponsors, CST Tires, shop.csttires.com, Yamaha thanks to Blue Crew, Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Fourworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bike Strikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. Support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. Find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Our show merchandise, including Digging Deep shirts and hoodies, our Quad Guys Get Hot Chicks shirts and hoodies, back-to-back national champ merch, and more are all available at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com. If you're looking for another easy way to help support us or help us make it to a few more events here in 2021, visit our website and click the Buy Me a Coffee button. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to help us out. You can call our voicemail line anytime at 920-569-3519 and follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, Digging Deep ATVMX fantasy info, and more as racing continues to heat up. One final reminder, lineups do not roll over, so head over to atvfantasy.com today to select your team and lock it in before the gate drops at Aonia Pass. You have until 12:30 Eastern on Saturday. Also, congrats to our event winners so far, including Justin Branham and Alex Hoag, who tied for the top spot at High Point. We have some sick exclusive prizes shipping out to all of our winners soon. Look forward to getting those in the mail shortly. As for the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links, and discount codes, our new show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And with that, for Brandon Hoag, Michael Byrd, Aaron Salinas, Logan Tremellen, Brooke Catherine, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to the #1 podcast on ATV racing, 2 million downloads and counting. Until next time, thanks for joining us and digging deep with the stars of ATV motocross. Now let's go racing. See you next time. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quad leaders are freaking gnarly.